Statement of publication, please, Jessica.
Take notice that this regular meeting of the mayor and council being held this 18th day of July 2022 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
And roll call, please.
Councilpersons Conti.
Is he on?
On the phone here.
I hear him.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm out there.
June 4.
Here.
Mar.
Here.
Novak.
Here.
Noha.
Here.
Roberts.
Here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'll ask for the approval of prior minutes of the mayor and council. That will go over to Council President Mar, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm thrown by this.
I know this technology has just officially hit everybody here on the council. So please bear with us. This is the first time that all of our council members have some type of technological device in front of them. So as we transition from paper to technology, and the students here understand this better than anybody, just have some patience. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to approve prior minutes of the mayor and council, May 11th, receipt of bids, June 21st, receipt of bids, and June 27th, regular and agenda sessions.
Second.
Councilpersons Mar.
Yes.
Conti.
Yes.
June 4.
Yes.
Novak.
Yes.
Noha.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the most exciting part of the meeting. It is the presentation of awards to our 2010 Cerebral Cobras with their certificates, the 2010 Galaxy Girl certificates as well. This is your moment. Look at how happy. I see many smiles here. It's always exciting. We always know when there's certificates that are going to be passed out because we are a packed house. So with that, I'm going to ask that the council please join me over in the front of the dais over here. And I'm going to ask for our coaches to please come up. So that way you can also tell everybody what amazing things these young people have done. So let's make our move.
Jesse, I'm gonna come up and sign on that. Get this. Calls me at 5 o'clock. It's just landed. Just dropped my wife off.
It does not matter.
I have to turn around.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this really is exciting. Hello, boys. How are you? Hello, ladies. How are you? Very good. I'm glad to hear that. And hello, parents. First of all, it really is always exciting for all of us up here to be able to celebrate our young people, to celebrate whether it be the athleticism, in addition to their educational prowess. This is an exciting moment for Cerebral. So thank you guys for wanting to come and spend today with us. Oh, so many familiar faces in this audience. I'm extremely happy. But more importantly, I don't want to mess this up. So we bring up our coaches to let everybody know exactly why we want to celebrate these young people and be prepared for what they have to do in the future. Who is going to speak first? So we have 3 awesome coaches here. I love this. I love this. There you are. I'm going to turn the microphone over.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Tulpani. I've been a member of this club for, I don't know, 26 years. I stopped counting after that. But it's my distinct pleasure to thank the parents, the coaches, my assistant coach, Brian, who's not here tonight, the team mom, and obviously our wonderful players here for an outstanding achievement. This was not an easy goal. This project went for about 2.5 years. And finally, we made first place. I was looking for a scoreless or I guess a winless streak, let me put it this way. But unfortunately, it did not happen for us. But overall, I think I'm very proud, very pleased to be coaching this group, not only coaching the group, but also being, a member of the town and I've helped out many teams. I've coached many teams in the past. I want to thank Mr. Palando for the opportunity. Thank the council here tonight for this great opportunity. So thank you, parents. Thank you, kids. Keep striving. It's only the beginning, okay? It's all right. We lost the last few games, but we'll make them up. Thank you.
first, if you don't mind. So let's tell everybody exactly what these young ladies accomplished, so that way as they come up, do you have their certificates? So what we will do is I'll put you guys in charge of that. Somebody will hold the certificates while you call out their names. And this is for successful 2021 to 2022 season with the Cerebral Galaxy. That just sounds out of line.
7 wins, 1 loss, 2 ties. So,
And ladies, we're gonna start with you. So when you get your certificate, please come up. You are on TV and you will be on YouTube. Right there.
is Alana here? Alana?
So you
Alana?
want to make sure that you turn around, you have every single person here that definitely wants your picture. And then I want to make sure that you stay up here as you receive your certificate. Just make sure that you have rooms for all of your teammates, okay? So back over to our coaches.
Thank you. Am I reading this all over again?
You
No,
do not-
okay,
you can
okay.
Call them up by name since we all know.
All right, I'm going to start with one a talented young lady that really has stepped up over the course of 2 years. I mean, she really took a role. It's a very tough role. It's a goalkeeper's role. So Bella, come on up. You guys won't believe it, but sometimes she blocks my shots. So, all right. I mean, I have so many words. You know, to me, these kids hold a very special place in my heart, as the other teams did. So I've coached about, I don't know, 6 or 7 travel teams. I lost count, but you know, this is obviously a special group for me. But the key of the defense right here is Miss Brooke. Oh my gosh, this player has got a lot of fire. I mean, when she first came on the team, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to slow her down. So she really gives all you know, all she has at every game. So Kali, come on up. Yeah, this is for Emma that she's not here, but Emma, you definitely. The only way to beat Emma is you got to be faster than her. So, all right, another young talented player that's coming up and making improvements. And I know with time she will really be ready for I would say middle school and high school. Okay, Jalen, come on up. Julia, Jude. Okay. Oh, the other one is for Julia. All right, this is another special, talented young player. She really, she was the heart of the team. She is the heart of the team. She gave almost over 110% at every game. She made a difference at every game. Unfortunately, we're going to lose her this year, but she's always welcome to come back. Leah, this is for you. All right, so this is a young lady that sometimes I have difficulties communicating, but at the end, she wins all the time. I'm serious, but she's definitely a key player, very instrumental to the team. She's almost like a leader, but she's definitely taking that role. Madeline, come on up. All right, and the next one goes to another talented young player. Definitely lots of improvement over the course of the past year. Speeds, agility, dribbling. She's really stepping up and making a difference, but I like to see her scoring 10 goals next season. So Michaela. All right, this other certificate goes to another talented young player. She really tries hard. I know she's probably the youngest player on the team. And at every game, she's like, Coach, when I'm going in, like, you will go in. But she will definitely get, time and definitely be able to improve. I could see that coming. She understands the game, and most importantly, that's something that makes a big difference. But overall, she gives her 100% all the time. Maureen. All right, this next one. I mean, they're all talented for me, guys. I'm sorry. They're all great players. I know, there's times where my hair is like sticking up, but it is what it is. It's part of being a coach and part of being a volunteer. You're gonna have to accept everything, good and bad, and mostly with the heart, right? So this goes to another young player that really stepped up, has shown improvements, and it was able to score some goals. So I like to see more goals. And this award goes to Naomi. All right. We done? Oh, you guys put me on the spot tonight. I wasn't ready for this. But anyway, the next award goes to another talented player, very instrumental to the team. At times, I have to slow it down, but at times I have to speed her up. But she definitely gives 110%. Really key player. Gives her 100% and always strives to do the best. Olivia. All right, I think we counting down here. The next one goes to one of the key players in defense. He really holds it strong, excellent in midfield. Definitely has demonstrated potential to grow, potential to get it at the next level. But overall, she does support the team. She's very quiet, when we're having conversations, but on the field, she's not quiet. So Victoria, there you go. Sabrina got scared for a while. All right. Wow, this next player, I don't know what to say, but if I had to award, if I have to put a place or, like a number to it, it would be very hard to do. I mean, they all have a special talent. They're all played, try their best, but Sabrina is like the lightning on the team. If you need like a charge or something like that, Sabrina sparks everybody up. So Sabrina, come on up, and you really deserve this. By the way, all these players have been instrumentals. All these players have scored very crucial goals in a pivot point of the season. And I knew it that when we beat the team that we were tied for first place, I knew it that we were not stopping. So congratulations to the players. There you go.
Go to our young men sitting right over here. Ladies, we're gonna keep the applause going for them, right? Okay. So we're gonna let you flank this entire side over here. If this table's in the way, we can just slide on down, but we want to make sure that they are on camera.
Okay.
So
You want us to move this down?
you want to slide it down? You guys look strong and burly. Let's do that. So this certificate is awarded to our young men over here. here for their very successful 2021-2022 season with the Saraville Cobras. What's the name? With a record of. So gentlemen,
Thank you, man.
I'll pass those over to
I
you.
appreciate
Okay, so let's start. Aiden Leota.
I know, I'm gonna talk. I wasn't ready for him to come up. I was my own son, so. This one, he's a.
Remember, we are on TV. and
Yes.
camera.
Sorry, sorry.
So this is a defender. I gotta say, he gives everything 110% every time he's on the field. He just goes after the ball. Sometimes gets a lot of my backlash, but he gives everything 110%. Anthony. All right. This kid is our striker. I could say so much about this kid. He really is. He's a very, very talented boy, gives everything on the field. Playmaker, scores a lot of goals for this team, I got to say. He's just a great kid, Bobby. This is another defender. He plays my left back, gives everything he's got on the field. Very hard to get around. He's got very good footwork. This goes to Brady. All right. This is my right mid or right wing. This kid's very talented, very, very talented, very good footwork. He could cross the ball like no other. He a lot of assists and he does have a very good foot from out there, scores a lot of goals. Christian. All right, this boy is recently new to this team. What I could say is he gives 110% wherever we put him. We can put him in the forwards, put him in back. He will play anything we ask of him, and he gives everything on that field. Enzo. All right. This boy is another one that could play anywhere on the field. Mostly we stick him in defense, and he has stepped up for us playing goalie. I want to thank him actually for stepping up to be goalie because without you, it'd be very hard to field a team, right? And we do appreciate it. We really do. Yeah, and we're not going to say that every single boy on this team is actually afraid of him. All right. All right, Ife. This is another boy that will play mostly defense for us, but will play mid and forward if we ask him to. Good team player, very good foot skills, and just very good all around. Liam. My son? Oh. All right, let's go back to my son, Aiden. All right, what can I say about him? One, he's my son. He plays defense. He gives 110%. He's just very good center defense. He controls the field and controls the ball, and I love him to death. Thank you.
Parents of our extraordinary event here, please come on up and take a
I just got, you mind if I got
Oh,
just
no,
one
of
quick
course.
comment really quick? Good evening, everybody. My name is Pav Pravan. I am the Cerebral Cobras coach. I've been with these boys since, honestly, some of them since they were babies, 4 years old, 5 years old, and now they're going on, 12, going on 13. It's been, when I tell you, one crazy ride over the last 2 years, with these boys. It's something so unbelievable and so special to have parents and have children that actually want to come and play and, dedicate themselves and, give, like Phil said, 110% every single time they're out on the field. The record speaks for themselves, with the dedication that they have and the worth ethic and the pride that they take in playing for the township is something that I can't ever begin to tell you how grateful and thankful I am to be a part of not just them, but these phenomenal girls and Coach Joe and Zoe. These people all help these kids grow, and they're the reason why they're all here. We all, as volunteers, as we know, this is not a paid job. We give our time, we give our dedication, we give our heart, blood, sweat, and tears to get this program together, to give everything to these kids. So like I said, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your team as your coach, as a mentor, and as a friend. And as long as, like I said to the girls as well, this has been a phenomenal season for them. They've grown tremendously. And with Coach Joe and Coach Brian and Zoe, it was just a beautiful thing for them to see, a beautiful thing for these boys to support, and vice versa. They would come, if the boys played, the girls would stay and watch. If the girls played, the boys stayed and watched. They would always support each other 110%. So I just want everybody to give them one more round of applause for one heck of a season. Thank you, guys.
You thought you were going to be able to sit down. I will once again extend for those parents that are eagerly waiting to get up very quickly to take some photos. I see them moving now. So girls, you can stay up too, because they might want to get even more of you as well. And then before you sit, the council always has a few words that they would like to say to all of you. They're not as organized. Look at this. Okay. Thank you, coaches. Thank you. Now you are not allowed to leave yet. Coaches, you can if you want. Kids are stuck up here for one more minute, because sometimes government isn't that exciting. You guys make it exciting for us. Whenever we get to give presentations, whenever we have to get awards out, I want to leave with you guys. I think I might after this, because you really do make this exciting. I want to say one thing that I noticed for both the young ladies and the young boys here. This truly, you can feel it in the room. This is about family, and not every team, when they come in, do I feel the level of love between and the teamwork and the care. I was watching as each time the coaches called up a player for both the boys and the girls, they waited eagerly, knowing who was going to be called. And even though they knew it wasn't them, they were looking at their teammates smiling. I watched arms go around saying it's you. I watched pats on the head, because That's something that coaches can't coach. They can't teach. When you guys find a special group of people to play a sport with, that's what makes you successful. I am so absolutely humbled and excited. That just lifted my entire heart for the entire rest of the summer, was seeing how happy you are for each other. So go on with that. And remember those losses. In my book, as a coach for many, many years, you sometimes learn more from the losses than you do from the wins. So don't forget about them, learn from them and take them with you. Because in life, there's always going to be losses, whether it be on a field, or whether it be in a job, or whether it be someplace else in life, in love. Learn from that, because it's what makes you stronger. Get out of the galaxy, ladies, right? Okay. Boys, keep striking. You are Cobras. You are strong. Oh, so proud of you. And I have to say, there are quite a few of them that have sat in my classroom, or I see every morning walking into the building. So excited to see what the rest of your careers bring. I will pass on over to my right-hand side. This is Councilwoman June For. I'm sure she has a few more inspirational words for you. Thank you.
My name is Councilwoman June For. The first thing I was able to get when I came into this room was energy from both sides. And that you can never get, especially being the fact that I'm always in front of people. You always have to read the room. One thing I would like to say to all of you, the men, the women, the young ladies, the young men, never lose your energy. There's too many adults that have lost their energy. Don't lose it. And one thing about soccer, it teaches you sportsmanship, leadership, and that's a trait that many don't know how to possess, that even in the work field, in their education. And in all honesty, I'm really, really excited to have both of you here. Soccer is an international sport, is recognized worldwide. And I know that every one of you will go places. That's the honest truth. And I wish you guys can stay for the rest of the council meeting. You guys made it so fun. Though your parents are already saying no.
Oh, wow.
Go ahead.
You know, obviously the game of soccer is an international game. As some of our folks are becoming more international at the moment. But primarily one thing I could say is, congratulations. Beyond the wins, chances are you're going to remember the losses years and years to come, the different plays that maybe you could, especially for the ladies, just the one loss, you might remember it for a very long time. But please also remember the wins and the victories, and remind yourself of that. And I think finally I'll say, when it comes to culture, the mayor highlighted that you can't really teach it. It really takes the team to create the team in that way. And it starts off just by being happy for the next person's success and seeing that you all already embody that. I'm sure that the sky is the starting point. So I really want to encourage you, please always be happy to support the person next to you that's wearing the same jersey, that is trying to achieve the same goal that is bigger than you. And I believe if you continue to hold that value, it will improve you, it will improve the community, it will improve the world. So thank you again for showing that, and for allowing that to push you guys to 40 and 17 and many more wins to come. So cheers. Thank you.
Congratulations, all of you. That's an amazing feat that you have. And I've heard a lot of people say words like leadership and teamwork, but you actually put it into practice. It's not easy to be a leader, and it is not easy to be a highly effective team. You'll learn to work together with your strengths, with your coaches, and you get better at the things that you didn't start out as a strength. And you move forward, and your coaches did a great job, and you as teammates really work together well, and you could teach a lot of us that teamwork works. Thank you.
Okay, so I played several soccer way back when, but the thing when we played at Borough Hall, but what I remember most, many of my lifelong friends are from soccer. So this is your crew for life. So it's not about the wins and the losses, although you guys did amazing this year and this season, right? That's why you're here. But it's about, like Mayor Kilpatrick said about being so excited for each other. That was so cute to watch. You guys are awesome. Be savage on the field, but be kind off the field always. And congratulations, guys. Well done.
Everybody's here. We've congratulated the team. We've congratulated the coaches. How about a standing ovation for the parents that run you all over the place? Been there, done that, know what it's like. My last child thought he lived in a car seat because I was running his older siblings all around. I really hope that all of you kids continue with this right through high school, because let me tell you, it pays off in the end for the parents in particular, because I have a daughter and a daughter-in-law that received damn near full boat scholarships for soccer. So keep into this, do your best.
I know you guys want to sit, but let's just see if there is a voice from beyond. Councilman Conti has actually called into the council meeting. Can Councilman Conti hear? Does he want to say a few words?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me?
All right. Oh, there he is. He's right up there.
Hey, I'm sorry I'm not here with you tonight, but better I be here and you be there. I'll tell you, as the mayor said, this is a great part of our meetings. You guys light up our lives, and congratulations. Well done. I just love to see, young adults, young men, young boys, young girls. You're free spirited. You make so many people happy, which is what I love to see. So, and I'm glad you guys are all happy. I heard a lot of things, 110% and family, and you know what? That takes a lot of work to get to that point. So I'm so very proud of you guys for accomplishing what you have. And we need leaders in this country. We need good leaders. And you guys keep it going, keep the drive up, keep that energy up. I want to see you guys be leaders down the line too. And remember this day, and then down the line, see that, you got your start in as a Cerebral Cobra or a Galaxy Girl or something like that. Such a great story. So keep it up. So proud of what you've accomplished, and so eager to see what you can accomplish next. So congratulations again.
Thank you, Councilman Conti. Guess what? You guys can all have a seat now if you want to, or you can stand up if you want. No, you guys can have a seat again. Congratulations. Let's give them one big round of applause. I love it. Thank you for making this council meeting so special today. We do have excitement yet to come, but oftentimes this is when most of you guys all hit the exit. So if you don't want to stay for the remainder of the government excitement, you are free to leave at this time, but just know we are deeply impressed with everything that you've done. Have an amazing summer. Keep playing that soccer. Thank you, parents. Great job, guys. What's up, everybody? I'm so proud of you guys. I am so proud of you. Oh my gosh, I am so proud of every one of you guys. You guys rock. You guys rock. You guys rock. Oh my gosh, I know. Oh, how I knew who you belonged to.
Oh, it's cold, Jess. It's cold. Bye, Pav.
All right. Oh yeah. Sweat. It's a lot of people. Yes. All right. As we start to exit out our council chambers, we do have additional business to go through. So that was exciting. Very happy to see that. We will start actually our next point of business. We're going to go into our tenant rights agreement. So we have a presentation from the attorney of our rent leveling board, and I am greatly appreciative. Where is he? Where is he? Where is? Oh, you're over here. You've relocated. Come on up, bro. All right. So for the record, we'll just state your name, obviously, and in what capacity that you're here to speak today. I really do appreciate you coming and addressing the public and the council. Over the last couple of meetings, we've had quite a few tenants come to speak to us about rent increases. So I know that you have some information for us that you'd like to share. So with that, are we all clear out there? We're good? Yep. All right. The floor is yours. Once again, just introduce yourself and let us know in what capacity you're addressing.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Brian Bontempo. So good evening. My name is Brian Bontempo. I'm the attorney for the Sayreville Rent Leveling Board. I was asked to come here tonight to give a brief presentation on some of the complaints that we received from some of the tenants throughout the borough. We received some emails from some tenants and some residents regarding rent increases at some of the apartment complexes. And in some of these cases, the reports have indicated increases of up to 20%. Now, it should be noted that we understand that the renters do have rights. We understand that. Sure.
We are actually having a hybrid meeting, so we have definitely residents online, and sometimes that might.
Okay, we're going now. So it must be noted that as the borough is aware and as the council is aware, the borough has a rent control ordinance. Under this ordinance, however, and under state law, there are exemptions from rent control. So there are several apartment complexes throughout the borough that are claiming these exemptions. Now, one of these exemptions is based on the time the building was constructed. So this is under a New Jersey statute, so state law is NJSA 2A:42-84.2, which states that if an apartment complex was constructed after June 25th, 1987, then they're exempt from rent control. Other exemptions include instances where apartment complexes have a certain amount of units devoted to affordable housing. If they have 15% of their units devoted to affordable housing, then they are also exempt from rent control. Now, if these apartment complexes are exempt from rent control, then the borough is sort of limited, well, at least the rent control board, rent leveling board is limited in the things that they could do. Even though some of these apartment complexes are exempt from the rent control, they still have to give notice to the borough and they have to give notice to their tenants. So what we've done at the board in response to some of these complaints is reach out to some of these landlords and apartment complexes and make them sort of recertify their exemption status. So they have to send us copies of their leases. They have to send us copies of the notices that they're giving to the tenants, and they have to give us copies of the notice that they gave to the borough. Now, if a property is exempt from the rent control ordinances, there's really no state law that prohibits how high their rent control, their rent could be. So if they want to charge a 20% rent increase, they could charge that, as long as they provide notice to their tenants. So we've asked them to recertify and show us that they're giving them that notice. Now, the rent control, the rent leveling board, I have to stress that we're not allowed to give, we're not authorized ethically or otherwise to give tenants legal advice. We can merely go to these landlords and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do as far as our rent control ordinance goes. And we're not allowed or authorized to give these tenants advice as to their leases or tenancies. So we are receiving these complaints, we are hearing these complaints, and we are doing everything that we can as a rent leveling board to reach out to the landlords and, just make sure that they're following the rules.
So at this point, from a rent leveling board's perspective, because we cannot offer advice in any way, shape, or form to the residents, is what you're saying. All we can do is basically ensure that the owners of these properties are appropriately following ordinances regarding notifications and so forth, and that their exemption status is actually current and on record.
That's correct.
Okay, outside of that, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. One of the things that Michael Dupont has worked on with the residents that have come here is at least giving them the names of advocacy groups in which they can contact as residents in order to assist them in any other case, any other additional cause they may have or additional abilities they have in order to fight this increase. So at this point, really, it's those advocacy groups, and I think many of them are set up through some of our higher governmental officials, correct?
Yeah, you know what? There is, DCA has a number of entities that are supportive of tenants' rights, together with the various legal aid communities as well as the law school communities to assist tenants with respect to the increases. There are subsidies that the state is offering to assist tenants. In addition, there are some requirements that a non-exempt an exempt landlord is required under the case law to support a market rate rent. So there are some rights that the tenants have in accordance under the state statute regarding the landlord tenant.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Anyone from the council have any questions for our rent attorney,
I do. You had stated that the exemptions from rent control is a statewide state statute. Are there any local statutes or any ordinances that we could impose to help manage rent control for those that are not under that, for those that are exempt? Because it seems to be uneven. Some are, some aren't. We should have a more common definition of who's under rent control, I would think.
Yes, there are, the state statutes, they control. We also have our own local rent control ordinance that offers some sort of exemptions as well, but those usually parrot the state statutes on the issue. So we can look at our own ordinances, but they also can't conflict with state law. So until the state law changes, our hands are somewhat tied. We could do everything we can to sort of protect our residents and our tenants, but only to the extent that we stay within the law.
And this is primarily at the state level that we have to address this.
Correct.
Thank you.
Brian, our local ordinance though complies with the state law and has all of the requirements that state law sets forth in the statute, correct?
That's correct.
And that includes any and all restrictions, any and all certifications, any and all requirements with exemptions.
That's correct. Yes.
But we can't go beyond what the state has
No, we cannot.
identified. That's the problem.
Right.
That being said, as I said, there are tenants advocacy groups, as well as the state is through DCA has been offering some assistance to tenants. I know that we have been in contact with your legislators as well as the Speaker of the Assembly, and hopefully additional information will be forthcoming.
Okay, thank you very much. It is very frustrating. I mean, we hear the pleas of our residents, and one of the things that we want to do is provide any means of assistance that we can. In this particular circumstances, from a local municipality, it seems that our hands are tied. I'm happy to hear, though, that our rent leveling commission has made certain that our ordinances are in fact up to date and up to what they need to be. I think that will help our residents when they go to move forward through advocacy groups to know that at least we've done everything we've needed to do from Cerebral's perspective. And I commend you and I commend the rest of the members of the Rent Leveling Commission in making sure, rent leveling board, to making sure that our ordinances are up to date. So I think that would probably be an important component of anything that they try to fight moving forward.
Yes, it is. And we're happy to look at any resident or tenant that wants to bring a certain situation to the board. We'll be happy to look at it, address the specific situations, make sure that the landlords are complying with our rent control ordinance and issue determinations to both the landlord and the tenant on any issue they want us to look at.
Thank you, Brian. I do appreciate that.
Sorry, are you familiar with the ordinance being like maybe initially set, to be in place just for a temporary period of time, maybe like a few years, and then moving forward like a renewal process? Because we've had residents kind of mention that.
It's possible, but the issue is that it still can't conflict with the state law.
Right. And
So-
I'm referring to the state law, actually, sorry, to that ordinance. Are you familiar with that caveat within it, that it's only set for a temporary period of time? Because if so, then like when is that, I guess, renewal period up?
Yeah, as far as I know, these statutes that we're dealing with and these exemption statutes, I mean, this one statute and the one that I cited, it's been in place since 1987. So, the chances of an exemption or some other state statute being on hold for a short period of time and then picking back up at a later time, I really don't think it applies to this sort of situation. I wish it did, but I don't think that we have any help with any sort of legislation like that, as far as I know, at the state level right now.
Okay. Anything else, Councilman Noah?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to look into it, research it. We could talk directly. We could email and we'll look.
Yeah, I think like some of the ordinance initially did mention that it will only be set from 1987 to 1997, and then, there'll be a reviewing process, but hopefully we can clarify offline if you know.
Yeah, we could talk and we'll definitely look into it.
Thanks.
So at this point, I do know that there may be some residents here right now in the audience that do have some specific questions in reference to their circumstance. Now, because we do have Brian here, and with the help of Mr. Dupont as well, that has additional information that he would be able to pass on with different groups, I will ask that if you don't mind, Brian, we're going to open up room 310, which is right around the back over here. We typically use for exec session, so that if there's any resident here in the audience that wants to speak about a specific matter or needs a little bit more additional assistance, we would allow Mike Dupont and Brian both to open up that room so you can talk to them, because I definitely know there are people here. I wouldn't be able to answer those questions. I want to be able to give you a voice with the most appropriate individuals. If there's anybody online that does have a questions in reference to a personal situation regarding their tenant agreement, what I'll ask is that you put in a private message online with your name and address or a name and telephone number so that we can reach out to you, either Mr. Dupont or Brian from Rent Leveling, to assist you as well. So I do see that there was at least one hand raised, but I want to make sure the professionals that are most informed gets that information. Brian, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, reach out and I'll always answer.
Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're going to move forward. We also have another presentation. I do believe that Sergeant Braille is actually on the phone in reference to addressing some issues regarding North Edward Street and traffic concerns. I want to thank Sergeant Braille for being on the line at this time. And do we have his number? Is he listed under as panelist for us? Okay, I won't call that out, but I will ask that Jessica or Nicole, that you bring him into the public session. He is already in the public session. Sergeant, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Very good. Excellent. So you're in the public portion now. Sergeant Braille, obviously just state your name for the record. We know who you are. And then we're going to let you give your update to the North Edward traffic concerns that we've been hearing about over the last couple of meetings. Thank you for attending tonight.
No, thank you for having me. Sergeant Brian Braille, Sayreville Police Department, Traffic Safety Bureau. How's everything going tonight? I was called this evening to give an update on North Edward Street over consistent concerns for speeding and careless driving along that area. I submitted a report this afternoon. I just want to make sure that all our council persons received it and had a chance to review it, follow along.
Yes, I did receive it. Did everybody in the council receive that report? Thank you very much. Yes, they did receive it.
Okay. So just to recap, this engagement began the end of November 2021 by way of Councilperson Conti, who brought to my attention that a resident of North Edward Street had attended a Borough Council meeting with some concerns about motorist speeding and acts of careless driving. Working through the holiday period in that time frame around early December, I began a conversation with the resident to hear his concerns, and we started with our response. Our initial response, we deployed some traffic safety officers, to include myself, to monitor the area of North Edward Street in various locations in different capacities, some enforcement, some non-enforcement. And at that time, our initial observations were unremarkable in that we weren't picking up any volume of motorists or really enforceable violations. We continued our engagement and our conversation with the resident, just staying engaged with him and providing him details on our response. And after the holiday season passed and the weather broke, we deployed a instrument that was capable of counting vehicles and logging speeds. We deployed it for an initial 6-day period in the beginning of March 2nd to March 8th. And during this time that this instrument is deployed, it's uninterrupted in collecting the data. As a brief summary, our initial 6 days, we counted 2,771 vehicles in both directions along North Edward Street. Of the 2,771, 1,680 vehicles were registering below the actual posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour. And we got a count of approximately 80 vehicles that are achieving a violation speed, some of which were exceeding 30 miles an hour. Of these 80 vehicles, one reflected a high speed of 66 miles an hour, and the average speed of all the other violations, they maintained between 28 miles per hour and 30 miles per hour. We repeated this study again beginning of April for a 2-week period. Very similar results as far as statistics, with a total count of 3,600 vehicles. Just over 2,300 vehicles were registering below the actual speed limit, and 82 vehicles were in violation. We had 2 high speeds in excess of 55 miles an hour. The remaining violations were between 28 and 30 miles per hour. Just so you know, these summaries are just mere summaries. The reports that are generated, they could be anywhere from 30 to 50 pages of data that we use to interpret times, the violation speeds, and really help us analyze what a good time would be to get officers out there to address the violations. We use this in addition to our observations, and we track resident complaints. In response to most recent complaints about the specific time frame of 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., during the weeks of July 4th to July 17th, I had officers stationed on North Edward Street, specifically in this 4-hour window, various time frames within. I had officers out there in fully marked vehicles, very conspicuous, and less conspicuous vehicles, all equipped with radars. What the officers reported back to me is the majority of the vehicles were traveling at or below the posted speed limit, and several vehicles in violation were within that less than 5 miles per hour above, 25 to 30 miles per hour. Of the observations over a 2-week period, there were roughly 200 vehicles manually counted. 3 were within a range where enforcement action was taken in the form of a motor vehicle stop. Excuse me. All this information is really consistent with what the electronic data that was coming back to us and the previous observations. I pulled up some old reports through our police dispatch computer. Over the last 5-year period, I counted 6 initial reports of motor vehicle collisions. 10 of those collisions resulted in accident reports. Of those 10, 2 reported injuries with no transport to any hospital. Also, from the beginning of this year, January 1 of 2022, we have a total of 60 motor vehicle stops which were conducted on North Edward and the streets immediately surrounding, which would be consistent with the violations and the concerns from North Edward Street. These violations, they were addressed in matters of summonses, written warnings, and verbal warnings. We went out there, we took a good look at the street. We really noticed no engineering defect or anything in the design of the roadway which would contribute to the vehicles traveling at any excessive speed or in any careless manner. So moving forward, what we're going to do is we're going to continue to monitor as we have been doing, deploying officers when feasible, as necessary, and really try to pinpoint some violation times. I'm in possession of material, public awareness material, that I received from Middlesex County Traffic Safety, and another local campaign. And what I'd like to do is, when schedules are conducive, implement a public awareness campaign and support that with a saturated patrol. Also, I'm working on some projects with other streets. I'm going to be forwarding a request for some electronic display signs, which may help us increase some visibility and hopefully help us really adjust the motorist behavior that's causing this concern.
That is a extremely thorough and comprehensive report. I truly appreciate it, Sergeant Braille, and I think it enlightens the residents as to how much care that you take and your traffic bureau takes when there is a resident issue. There's a whole lot that goes into identifying and determining exactly what is happening on the street, and it does take some time, but clearly you can see how much work has gone into this. Now, Councilwoman Mara, I know that you had requested Sergeant Braille come to the meeting to give that report. Did you have anything to add?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Mayor Brian. Sergeant Braille, thank you so much for attending tonight's meeting. I do think that it means more coming from you than it does us. I also wanted to thank you for your efforts with Dolan, with getting the crosswalks after we had that accident a while ago, and also the weight restrictions on Kendall and Creamer. So once again, thank you so much from myself, and I'm sure the rest of the council.
Anybody else
Thank
from
you,
the
Madam
council?
Sergeant, I'd just like to let you know that the budget passed and you have $40,000 in the capital budget to buy any kind of speeding apparatus that you wanted, either the ones on the pole or on the trailers.
Wow.
Okay, fantastic. That's good news. I'll have even more requests coming your way then. That's good news.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. Let's see, anybody else from the council wish to ask or comment to Sergeant Braille? I think everybody up here is great, is good. I do appreciate that. Sergeant Braille, and thank you again for calling in. I know that things are very busy, clearly, from what you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Right now, we're not open to the public, so I don't. Yeah, to clarify, so we're not at public portion yet. We're still in presentation mode. So any questions that you have in reference to something that was stated at a presentation, you're just going to have to wait until we hit the public portion.
So I can speak, because I'm here regarding the traffic situation like similar to this person, so I will be able to.
Right, you'll be able to speak at the public portion. Absolutely. No problem. Thank you. Welcome. If nobody else has anything to say, Councilwoman June 4th, did you want to add to Sergeant Braille?
Okay. Thank you so much, Sergeant Braille, even for that extensive report. And I'm glad that honestly, I actually want to appreciate you and the rest of the police department and all of the public safety. I do see your work around town. Even as I'm driving by, I see you talking to residents in my own private time. And I actually want to appreciate you. And I want it to be on the record. I've seen where our trailers for the speed radar being placed around town. And I actually want to appreciate it. Without those residents even coming to our council meetings, I do see a lot of the things that you do. So whether eyes on you, whether eyes off you, we see the great work that you do, and we would like to appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so Sergeant Braille, thank you. Have a good evening. I appreciate you calling in at this time. And we're ready to move on to our final presentation proclamation for this evening. And that is an exciting month we have here. So if you'll just listen along, we have a proclamation naming this month the Parks and Recreation Month proclamation. So it states, whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Saraville. And whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitats for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month. And whereas the Borough of Saraville recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore I, Victoria Kilpatrick, Mayor of the Borough of Saraville, do hereby designate the month of July 2022 as Parks and Recreation Month, which we know deep down inside that's every single month of the year. I'd like to say thank you to all of our Parks and Recreation employees, and especially our Recreation Director who's here with us right now, Brian. Yay. Especially as we are continuing to move out of the last couple of years of COVID. And you saw at the beginning of our meeting just how important and integral our recreational programs are for the young people that were even here with us earlier today. That is a testament to the volunteers, to the parents, and really to Brian and the rest of our Parks and Recreation team. So Brian, if you had anything to add to our proclamation, please feel free to stand up or just say thank you or hello to anyone that you wish. Come on up, Bri. How long has it been now? How many? Almost a year, just over a year. See, I'm in a, it's amazing. So Brian has stepped up at a time when we have needed him the most, and thank you for all that you've done. Go ahead, Bri, the
Yeah,
floor
I
is
know you
yours.
guys have a full agenda today, so I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to thank you all, Mayor and Council, for acknowledging this month and every month as Parks and Recreation Month in town. Over 260 million Americans visited a park in the last year, and I know a lot of them were in Saraville. We have a lot of great parks and amenities in town. I want to thank all of our Recreation Advisory Board and especially our Parks Department too, who work so hard to try to make our communities beautiful and all that. So it's a great place for mental health awareness and improvement. Like the mayor said, it's ecologically important, especially in this time of climate change. Parks really help provide urban cooling and the necessary trees and landscape that we need. So thank you again for acknowledging this. I'm looking forward to seeing you all at our summer play day and the celebration of Parks and Recreation Month at the end of the month. So hope to see you all there. And thank you again.
Thank you, Brian, so much. Thank you. We really tax Brian and the rest of our parks employees. We offer a lot with a little. There's so much more that I know the rest of this council would love to give and love to do. And we really get a lot accomplished. And I do think that each year we need to continue to reinforce and add and invest in our parks and the recreation programs that we have to offer. So
The one thing, Mayor, that Brian brought to us when he came to us was Play Day. So it's coming up on July 25th, and it's here at Veterans Park, AKA Borough Hall, and it's free for all residents, and it's a great fun day for the kids, lots of inflatables and games, and that's some new addition to our hectic fun-filled schedule as it is. So that's one more great event that we have added. So thank you, Brian, for bringing that to us.
kids and adults, we all need to play just a little bit and get out and enjoy the fun. So thank you very much, Brian. And that is the conclusion of our presentations and proclamations for today.
Brian's today.
I need a motion to accept that proclamation, though, in order to make it official. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the proclamation.
We have a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Hansi,
Yes.
June 4,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
And now it is official. There you go, Brian. Thank you very much. This time, Mike Dupont is not here, but I know we did not have reason for executive session and we do not have any old business on public hearings. We do have a couple of appointments though to make that I saw within our packet. So I know that I'm going to ask for 3, I believe, looking for the appointment of both Mary Novak and Ken Scott to the Saraville Economic Redevelopment Association, as well as, and who? Oh, I did not see that. Hold on. Oh, that, you know what, that is my apology. Donna Roberts as well, in addition to, and I don't have my paper in front of me right now, we do have a appointment that I would like to make Janet Krug, I apologize if I mispronounced that, to the Recreation Advisory Department, Recreation Advisory Board.
More than one borough council person can be on, Sarah.
That would make 2, so that would make 2. That would be Mary and that would be Donna. So do I have a second? I need a motion to accept those and then a second.
I make a motion to accept nominations.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Mar,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
June 4,
No.
Novak.
Yes.
Anoha. Roberts.
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to move forward with the remainder of our agenda for today. We have ordinances, introduction of the following ordinances. Jess, you're on.
First, I need to report that I received the supplemental debt statement received from the CFO as of July 18, 2022. I need a motion to receive and file.
Okay, is there a second? Thank you. You need a roll call for that. Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
June 4,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Introduction of ordinance number 20-22, an ordinance supplementing and amending ordinance number 437-19, fixing the salaries of certain borough officials, officers, and employees for the years 2019 to 2022.
I will turn that over to Administration and Finance. Councilman Novak, please.
Move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law for a hearing to be held on August 15th, prevailing time.
Second was from? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
June 4,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Ordinance number 21-22, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 4, the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville to amend Section 4-19.4, payment for off-duty assignments.
Once again, I will turn this over to Public Safety this time. Councilwoman June 4, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I move the ordinance be approved on the first reading, advertised according to the law, and public hearing to be held August 15, 2022. Thank you.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Councilpersons June 4,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts. Bond ordinance number 22-22, bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of a fire truck for the Borough of Saraville, New Jersey, appropriating $1,900,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,805,000 bonds or notes of the borough for financing part of such appropriation.
That would go over to Administration and Finance. Councilwoman Novak, please.
Move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law for public hearing to be held on August 15th. Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
June 4,
Yes.
Mar,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-22, an ordinance adopting a redevelopment plan known as 1970 Route 35 redevelopment plan in connection with block 425, lot 2.02, as shown on the municipal tax map in accordance with NJSA 4812A-7, and supplementing and amending the general ordinances and zoning map of the Borough of Saraville.
That is Planning and Zoning. Councilman Anoha, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to motion for the public hearing to close and the ordinance adopted.
The first one.
Ordinance be approved on first.
Is there a second?
Ordinance 23.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Anoha,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
June 4.
Before I vote, I have a question, please. Mr. J, for this property, has any, has any provisions been made for Morgan First Aid Squad for their parking? Because that was a huge concern.
Yes, this report was prepared by Howard Gruhl. There are a couple different sections in the report that talk about parking. I believe it's 5 parking places, which is what's there now, that this redeveloper is required to provide for the first aid squad.
And how would they gain access to the First Aid Squad?
It would be through this property.
So they're actually gonna gate that area now?
There's discussion in the report about a gated access.
No, my answer is no. Sorry.
Mar,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Ordinance number 24-22, an ordinance amending chapter 8, general licensing to delete subsection 8-18 miscellaneous schedule of fees of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville.
Administration and Finance, Councilman Novak, please.
Move the ordinance be approved on first reading and advertised according to law for a public hearing to be held on August 15th prevailing time.
Second.
Roll call, please. Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
June 4,
Yes.
Mar. Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts.
May I just say thank you to the administration team for eliminating duplicate ordinances. Great job. Yes.
Actually, thank the clerk.
Well deserved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to our consent agenda resolutions. At this time, I will open to the public for any and all comments regarding just the consent agenda resolutions. Those are the items that are listed on the agenda. So not quite yet. I know you're coming soon. But if anybody has questions regarding consent agenda resolution item, now is your time to speak. You can either step up or raise your hand. I do have a hand raise online, so I'll start there because I don't see anybody moving yet. Mr. Robinson, you're in the public portion. Name and address, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson, 11 Burrell Square in Parlin. A little surprised I'm commenting on a consent agenda resolution. I'm actually going to comment on 2, 196 and 197. You know, like a lot of us, I see a lot of political posts on social media and I ignore most of them. For instance, earlier this year, I saw where the local GOP had a post that said the US has no business sending money so Ukraine could defend itself against the war criminal Putin. As outrageous as I thought that was, is disrespectful and insensitive to Ukrainians and Czechs and Hungarians and Germans and Poles, and dismissive of the 10,000 innocent civilians who died at the hands of Putin. I didn't comment, except to my Ukrainian and Polish friends, and I have a lot of them. And everybody in this town knows Poland was invaded 3 times by Russia, so it's a sensitive subject. But I thought it was foolish and pro-Putin. And as bad as that was, if politicians want to make those comments, this is America and they have that right. Then yesterday, I saw a post on the same site asking people to come to this meeting to oppose a resolution allowing the pride flag to be flown 1 month out of the year. And I thought, is this what we have become? We should celebrate our differences, embrace those who are different, support those who have not previously enjoyed all the benefits our great society has to offer, and make everybody feel a part of our community. It's called a pride flag. We want the people to be proud of who they are and let them know they are welcome in this community. I understand politics. I understand liberal and conservative agendas and political bases and all that stuff. And Donna, I understand you're running and you have a base. I like you. I support your energy receipts resolution because it benefits the community. But I also understand community. I understand what living in a small town should be like. Community should transcend politics and ideologies. We need to circumvent what divides us and cement what unites us. And this resolution takes a small step towards doing that. You know, I was involved when a Jewish and a Hindu temple came to town, and I remember how they were received and treated. And I'm sorry to say that those were not our finest moments. And thankfully, we're way past that now. Now, I know this vote will pass. That's not the point. The point is that no segment of our community should feel like second-class citizens. Nobody should think one or more of their elected representatives would vote against something that says that they are welcome, that we want them to be a part of our community and respect them, that they deserve to have pride in themselves. So please support this resolution, but more importantly, for the sake of community, those who are considering opposing it, please withdraw your opposition. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those comments. Anybody from the public wish to speak, or anybody else from online?
I just want to thank Mr. Robinson for those sentiments. So articulate, so well said. I couldn't say it better myself.
And I would refrain from my comments till everyone's spoken on this topic.
Sure. Anthony, name and address, please.
Spoiler alert. My name is Anthony Sposato. I'm on Washington Road, number 54. Mayor Kilpatrick, Councilman Conti, Councilman Anoha, Councilwoman Jumfor, Councilwoman Marr, and Councilwoman Novak, thank you so much for your service to all of the residents of our town, not merely to those with whom you agree. Your leadership should call out to those around us, inspiring us to listen more and learn more and love more. After my last appearance before this council, where you voted to fly the pride flag outside of Borough Hall for the third consecutive year, I drove back home and I kissed my son on the forehead to say goodnight. It's called a forever kiss in our house. He hugged me and he asked, "Daddy, did you do it?" I was able to say, "Gabe, we did it." And like my kindergartner, it was put to bed. And to the men and women whom I named earlier, and to those who reached out in support in the weeks since, I want to thank you wholeheartedly and fundamentally from my house to yours for teaching my son with one small vote on a Monday night not long ago that his family is just as good as anyone else's. Councilwoman Robertson, I would like to speak to you directly, because the last time this issue came up, you were the only person in this room who voted no. I thought, well, it couldn't have been political, because some of the most vociferous support that we received was from these two council persons, right? Councilman Anoha and Councilwoman Jumfor, who voted their conscience, weren't blinded by political aspiration or intra-party politicking. Councilwoman, especially, spoke from her heart about being available for both her constituents and her congregation to discuss any issues with her vote. Have either of you received any pushback from the way that you voted? No?
Not at all, and I'm proud of what I voted for.
Councilman, if I ask? Sure, thank you. So giving you some charitable assumption here, Councilwoman Roberts, if it wasn't political, if you were not in fact making a calculated attempt to turn your back on a minority community in town to play to the more conservative leaning residents of this town, just a few months before your own election, then what could it have been? Councilwoman, your position in that vote was that you didn't want to open the door to other groups flying their flags at Borough Hall as well. Now, what other groups you were afraid of, I'm not sure. In fact, when you voted, you didn't mention even a single instance of any other group whose flag you would also prefer not to see hanging in front of Borough Hall. When you presented straw man arguments about other Supreme Court cases that you had found online, and you asked this attorney for guidance, you were told directly, and I asked specifically, if this opened us up to any legal risk by flying the pride flag, especially considering that it had flown for the previous 2 years. It would not have. So that, perhaps understandably, left me with some unanswered questions in the subsequent days. But then miraculously, you were gracious enough to go public with the quiet part that you didn't dare to say out loud when I was here last time. In a message to your party, Councilwoman, you wrote, "Please come to the Sayreville Borough Council meeting on Monday to oppose allowing the pride flag to be flown in the month of June. No special treatment for special interest." That's catchy, right? And there it was, the relegation of my family as a special interest, seeking special treatment. The provocation of your party with inflammatory statements, not rooted in fact, not rooted in trying to find a commonality of human experience and in a way that we could be bound together, right? But instead rooted in the fear mongering that some group of others was somehow coming to take something more than what other people get. Being well-spoken and sharing my story and lived experiences with you and this council, that doesn't make me a special interest. That makes me a dad who cares deeply about the way his son feels and the way this town makes his family feel. That's not a special interest group. Councilwoman, the terms special interest and special treatment sure do fire up the base though, right? So rally the base, put the target on my back, and see who comes to Borough Hall to speak out against equality. You are an elected official. Is this how you are spending your time? Since our last meeting when we discussed why visibility is life-saving, Councilwoman Roberts, and before posting on Facebook that Republicans should come to this chamber to oppose the pride flag being flown, did you do any research on how many GLBTQ teens consider killing themselves because of who they are? Because of the way the world makes them feel? Did you do any research on your own to learn the history of that flag, to learn the history of that GLBTQ equality movement? Did you happen to watch the news where members of your party are now talking about bringing up litigations to reverse Obergefell? Moreover, do you know who Jim Obergefell is? If the pressure that the spotlight I'm shining on you in this moment feels uncomfortable, Councilwoman, I'd like you to absorb the way this moment feels. Absorb the heat and the shame you feel I'm throwing at you. Absorb the stares and the snickers. Absorb that your cheeks and ears may feel hot, right? That your eyes may feel watery from the glare of dozens of people staring at you and seeing you for who you are. Absorb that everyone in this room is looking at you. The outsider, the one no. The way you're feeling for these 5 short minutes here is the way my family feels almost every day when we go out. We are scanning the room to see who is staring at the 2 guys and the kid. We are being stared at or laughed at, made fun of, photographed discreetly to be shared as the punchline of someone else's social media joke, right? What special treatment that is indeed. So yes, by all means, rally your base, tell Republicans to come support you as you vote no for gay families to feel accepted in this town. Say to my face that it's procedural, and then play a party role behind the scenes and scare people about what it means to fly a pride flag in June. Lean into the age-old questions that scares the seniors. If we do this, then what's next? Where does it end? But don't think we don't see you for who you are, Councilwoman. You're a vestige of an older wing of your party, right? Clinging to scare tactics and social issues because it may pick you up a few votes in an election. And it may, but it's on the backs of the dignity of my child and my family. It is on the backs of kids who don't feel they're good enough or whole enough to keep going. We hope that you can make yourself feel better by making other people feel worse. To the men and the women in this room who understand, who said yes, who actually came here not to rule, but to learn and listen and grow together, all of us, who understand that your place at this table was earned by men and women who came before you, who demanded to be seen and heard, who organized and spoke up and spoke out about injustice and inclusivity and the way that it bends the moral arc towards justice over time. To those who recognize that we stand on the shoulders of those giants, thank you for teaching Gabe what leadership does look like. Councilwoman Roberts, thank you for teaching Gabe that sometimes the real monsters aren't under the bed, right? They aren't lurking in the shadows of a dark room. They sometimes make themselves much, much easier to spot. But any monster that you can see, you can defeat once you turn the lights on. Best of luck in your election.
Alexa, please. This is Alexandria Harris, 47 East Cup Street, Saraville. I just wanted to second what Mr. Robinson and Anthony had said. The pride flag has been flown 2 years prior, and it's not a special interest group for queer folks to feel welcomed after years of being attacked and singled out. So yeah, those 2 gentlemen said things much better than I ever could. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate those sentiments as well. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Yes, please come forward. I'm sorry, I could not see both hands, so whomever, thank you. You're closer, come on up.
Tom Fritzen from Main Street.
Yes.
From 43 Main Street. I have 2 things, actually. First, is the sergeant still on the line, or did he?
I do think he is gone at this point because we had him come for the presentation, but you can still address any question that you want and we will definitely make sure. Oh, these are still consent resolutions. I apologize. So the pride flag was listed under our consent agenda resolutions. That's a public question. So in the next public portion, which will be after we accept this, then you can come back up and ask for traffic. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I got it, I
Okay,
think.
thank you.
But then my second point was to also talk about, my first point was to talk about the traffic, because I live on Main Street and I've.
If you wish to speak on a consent agenda resolution item, then by all means speak.
But then on, based on the pride flag too, I have been living in Saraville for over 20 some odd years now. I always felt welcome, and I always know I try to welcome everybody that comes to this town. And I was kind of proud actually seeing the proud flag fly having a son who is on the LGBTQ the way of life right now, and we support him as best as possible. And I know he feels really welcome in this town because he knows all of his friends and all this stuff, and they see the pride flag and they're all happy about that. I'm actually kind of tired, and I don't know if this is the way to put it. And it's like, I hate how America these days always classifies somebody as the first woman to do something, or the first Black man to do something, or the first, we are all people. It's like, this is just a person that did something great. It's not the first time somebody did this or first time somebody did that. So we should think about that way too, because that would include everybody and not separate people out to say the first of that race or the first of this race. So let's try to keep that in mind. And I think we should, support this resolution.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir. So, comment about consent agenda resolution? Yes. Come on up. Your first time and already look at two microphones.
Because I did have the opportunity for my children to play with your son.
I just
your
need
dog.
name and
Oh, I'm
address
sorry,
first. That's
Christina
okay. You're brand new. First
Angela.
and last name.
33 Hensler.
Thank you. You have that, Jess.
I've been living in.
I'm sorry,
Sayreville.
last name one
Hensler,
more time.
Angeles, Christina
Angeles.
Angeles, 33 Hensler.
You got that, Jess? We're good. Go ahead.
So I am new to Sayreville. I moved here in March of last year, and I spent about a year prior with my boyfriend. But one thing that I absolutely love about Sayreville as a Brooklyn girl, and then Staten Island, is the diversity of Sayreville. It is just so wonderful to see my children, two little white kids, blonde hair, blue eyes, whatever, play with every group of child. They do not care and they don't ask questions. Their friends are like the United Nations. And I think what's so important about raising children in that way, and I will say I am a registered Republican, okay? That is what that is my political party, but in this climate that we're living in right now, it's so polarized. And there is no reason why you have to be all one way or all the other. Why can't you meet in the middle and, teach children that there are differences in our world? And the only way you can really have this change, especially in the pride flag, is to make it normal, to normalize it. While I do understand what's next, I completely understand the sentiment of where you're coming from. We also have to look at it like this. This is somewhat of a new, I don't want to say new, but I'm only 36. When I was in high school, being gay wasn't like accepted. So I would say in the last 15, 20 years, becoming gay and coming out is very accepted and it is normal. And I am a junior high school teacher in Staten Island. And I can't tell you how happy I am and what a good feeling it is to see that my students are comfortable with themselves. So while we may say what's next, this may just be like, we may need to do like a little starting point here, like a little jump off. Hey, it's okay to be gay. Here's a flag. You may want to fly it every year, you may not, but it's important for our children to see it and accept it and embrace it. And then over time, and that's the only way that over time, it's not going to need a pride flag to be accepted. It's just going to be accepted. It just needs to evolve. Okay. It just needs to evolve. And, some people may take it personal. That's fine. No one's here to tell you what to feel and how to feel and what to say and how to say it. You have your feelings, he has his feelings, and that's all perfectly fine. We have to embrace our differences. So like I said, as a parent of two young children, I make it a point to raise them in a way where they just accept differences as being in part of the world around them. And that is the only way we're going to change the culture into becoming more accepted. And so that is what I had to say about that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So fellow teacher right there. Anybody else? Yes, please. You've been very gracious. That was too. Thank you. Name and address.
165 Madison Street. I'd like to commend Councilman Roberts for standing up and making her position known. especially in light of people characterizing her as a monster, questioning her motivations for doing what she did, and ascribing all sorts of negative impulses to why she did what she did. She stood up, she voted her principles. Not everyone supports flying the flag, and to be characterized as being anti-LGBT because you don't support flying the flag, it's just not a rational conclusion. I appreciate the classical notion of tolerance, which isn't being exhibited here. And I ask that people would think more deeply and clearly through their conclusions before disparaging someone for expressing their beliefs. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to speak from the public? I do not see any. This is on consent agenda resolutions only. Do I see, was there something? Karen, come on up. I do not see anybody online. Did
Good
you,
evening,
Nicole?
everyone. Karen Bieberts, 9 Burlington Road. And I regret to say, I think that there's been a huge misinterpretation. I am the chairman of the GOP in Saraville. We do not discriminate. We love our residents. We don't care or measure them on some meter stick as to what their sexuality is, what kind of house they live in. We love everyone. This has been spun by the people I've heard thus far into something that it was not. And Councilwoman Roberts' concerns were of a liability nature. Guess what? We all pay into that liability pot with our taxes. Her concern came from something that I'm sure every one of you have heard, the League of Municipalities of New Jersey. Okay, there was a case where a town was sued because they let certain things and certain interests fly a flag and others not. If it's an open door on flag flying, I think that's great. And I would like Law Enforcement Month. I think we should have our VA flag out there. I think Pro-Life Month, we should have that out there as well. Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I can go on and on and on. Okay, so the bashing and the intolerance that I've heard tonight, I'm very, very sad to hear that in a community where I think we have more communication, especially of lately. I was told that the Democratic and the Republican chairman haven't spoken almost a decade. Well, guess what? That's over, because we're all here to make better lives for our residents, educate them, try to look for revenue sources other than our tax pockets, and cut expenses to make a better life for all of us. Okay, so as far as any clarification, I wish we could just stop this division right now, because I'm sure we all live in glass houses at some point, and look at the liability issue that this would place all of us under from a financial perspective and from a leadership perspective. So it's either all or it's nothing. And that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak at this time? Yes.
Mitch Luttenberg, 7 Concord Square. Hi, Donna. I'm not one to hold back, as people know. You know, I make my opinion known on Facebook. Sure, a lot of people here know that. The General Services Administration, you know, the federal landlord. Just to give you an idea. Did you know that they approved 43, sorry for not speaking properly. They allowed 43 federal buildings to fly the pride flag. They're the only other flag that they have allowed. They did not allow the pro-life flag.
Wait, you have to
breast cancer
just
awareness
address, I'm sorry.
flag.
Yeah, there you go.
They
Thanks, Mitch.
only did the pride flag. They're not worried about being sued. So you can't say it's a lawsuit. Only the pride flag. 43 agencies asked to fly the pride flag. 43 agencies were approved. They're the only ones. So this has nothing to do with lawsuits. This has to do with what you believe. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Anybody else? I do have another hand up online, but does anybody from the public have anything to say in person? Okay, wait. She moved up to the top. Okay, I can't see who it is. Would you just, oh, okay.
Hi,
I'll-
yeah, hi. This is Alexa. Just wanted to use the rest of my 5 minutes. Being queer is not a choice. Alexa Harris, I spoke earlier, 47 East Cup Street, Sayreville. Being queer is not a choice. It's just who you are. Being pro-life or being pro-choice, that's a decision. Being queer, loving somebody of the same gender, it's different categories that someone from the community is comparing. So I don't think that's a fair example. Just like, I mean, I'm queer myself, but like, I'm not suggesting that someone else has to be queer. That's not. And also, flying the pride flag, it's to celebrate those who have been persecuted, those who have been hunted down, those who have been neglected, and certain resources or a peaceful life hasn't been given to them, people have not been given permission to live a just life. If you're pro-choice or pro-life, no one has persecuted you for that. But queer folks have, specifically Black trans folks. So flying the pride flag versus like flying a pro-choice flag is not the same.
Thank you very much for those comments. I appreciate that. At this time, seeing no additional comments or hand raises, I will entertain a motion to close the public portion.
Public portion.
Okay, second, roll call, please, to close public, and we'll do it in one. Move to accept the,
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda
I
resolution.
think we should
Mayor,
go
I think,
through, if I
Well,
ask for
if we
questions
could-
from us.
well, I think that when we do our roll call vote, then we can put comments on the prior to.
Let them do their comments now.
So
Council has any comments
Yeah.
before, close the public portion and let the council.
we can close the public portion separately then. Roll call on that close of the public portion. Who was the second on the close? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Mar,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
June 4,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Noha,
Just to close the public.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Okay, at this time then, I'll take any comments from the council prior to making our vote for resolution. I would prefer to do it as a roll call for accepting resolutions, as we always have done. Council, I'll ask council, would it be best to continue with our regular roll call for resolution approvals and let comments stand during that roll call
Sure,
vote?
you can do that, and
Yeah.
if anyone has any objections or questions, I can certainly answer them.
Okay, I would prefer to do that in keeping with Robert's rules, in keeping with the order of our business. So I will entertain a motion now in order to accept consent agenda resolutions. Is there a second for a motion to accept consent agenda resolutions? I need a motion and a second.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda resolutions.
Okay, so now we'll move forward with roll call, and at this time, the council can make their comments in reference to anything that was stated during this time.
Councilpersons Mar,
Yes, I thank the residents that have come forward and have spoken and shared their thoughts. It's not easy to share your thoughts and your beliefs, especially in a public forum. But yes.
Conti,
But my question on it is, so Mike, I would like you to speak to the legality of it, right? Because there's been issues raised on both sides. And I mean, trust me, I will jump at the chance to support hanging up the pride flag. I love that we do that. I think it's great. You know, every time Anthony's out there, he always kind of hits me in that spot. And I know he speaks on behalf of so many. Obviously, you know, we're government officials, so we've got to always look out for the borough as well. So
If I could interrupt you, Vince.
Yeah, Mike.
So right now, there is no policies in place. And there are some, and I was able to obtain policies, procedures, and application from another city. I noticed that there is another municipality that just proposed an ordinance allowing for certain flags to be flown. At this point in time, I don't think that there's any liability for what you have done the last couple years or this month. I don't think that's an issue.
Can you repeat that just one time? please? Can you say that
Okay.
more?
Yeah, it's difficult to hear. So if you could.
So I don't find that that's the issue as to what you've done in the past. I think if you want to move forward and you want to set forth policies and procedures, you certainly can. There is not a lot of policy or procedure out there.
Mike, can I ask you a question just about that? Because I've been researching a lot, not just today, but previously after Councilwoman Roberts brought up the Supreme Court ruling in reference to the city of Boston. And it appears, and I did speak to other legal counsel in references to try to understand it, because I will absolutely not pretend to be an attorney up here. I'm an LAL teacher. I just happen to read well. And this is what I was told, and please tell me if you need to either do more research or conclude. Here's my concern. So Boston had a very, very interesting flag policy, which caught them into a bit of a conundrum. They actually had a policy where they had a third pole built within their, on their city town hall, in which they were allowing really any flag to be raised for any organization or any group. And they had that written within their flag policy, with the exception of certain things relating to religion. And it appears that they have always allowed whatever flag wanted to be raised on that pole. What happened, according to the background on that particular Supreme Court ruling, was they ruled against one specific group. I forget what the name of it is, like it was a Catholic or Christian, whatever the heck it was. It was the concern that Boston had, that their government officials had, was that that was going to cross the line of religion and church and state. They declined flying that flag. They voted in opposition of it. And that is where the rub began, because they had already a past policy and an ordinance that was allowing any flag to be raised. So now they created what the Supreme Court had to decide was either the difference between what is referenced as public speech or governmental speech. Now, apparently there's two different things. This is where I had to reach out to an attorney to find out what the difference is. What the Supreme Court ruling was that because their ordinance was all inclusive, and because they chose to make a decision against this one particular group, that they actually had made their flag policy a condition of public speech, which now was a violation of their First Amendment right. If they did not have an ordinance and a past practice on the book, and they did what we have done, which is basically make a decision on each individual group that come before us to make a government decision, that falls under what is called governmental speech, which is not a protection under the First Amendment Act. So therefore, they actually created an ordinance that left the Supreme Court no choice but to say that they violated a public speech. If we were to enact an actual ordinance outlining specific things, we are now eliminating what is called governmental speech. Now, let me explain what governmental speech meant in accordance to the attorney that I spoke to. We are elected officials here. We are allowed to have an opinion, and we are allowed to make rules and certain decisions based on our opinions. That is what you get to see happen here as residents. You are getting to see right now, when this vote was made about raising the pride flag, you got to see, with no encumbrances as hiding behind an ordinance or a law or a Supreme Court ruling, how each elected official feels about an issue, about a flag, about a group, about an organization, about a collection of peoples. I'm okay with that. I wear how I feel on my chest, on my sleeve, and on my heart. But the moment we turn around and we put into place some type of a flag ordinance like Boston did, We are now turning this into a public speech issue rather than giving our residents an opportunity to see where we as individuals, your elected officials, stand on an issue. That concerns me. My concern here is that the conversation that we've been having for over an hour has nothing to do with law, has nothing to do with what could potentially get us into some type of legal conundrum. This is all about people not wanting you to know how they personally feel about certain issues, about certain people, about certain organizations or groups. The moment we allow that to happen, the moment you give politicians an opportunity to hide behind some type of a shield so you don't get to hear how they truly feel, we've got even bigger problems. I am proud. I don't have a vote, not unless this comes to a tie, but I am proud to say, without even having to worry about if there's a tie, I support it and have supported from day one the raising of that pride flag. And I encourage other groups to come before this podium and ask us as representative bodies that you elect whether I want their flag to be raised. Because then you will know where I stand. You will know what group I feel is a representative body of this community. And I think that any elected official that wants to hide behind ordinances, laws, or this fear and this unrealistic threat of litigation is just looking to hide their true feelings about an issue. Stand tall, stand proud. Let people know what you believe in. That is what our government, that is what the red, white, and blue flag stands for. That's my comments on that. We can continue with our roll call. Or your comments, Mr. Dupont. Am I incorrect in what I have read and what I have researched and what I have asked multiple attorneys who have dealt with very similar issues in 4 different municipalities and why it was correct? Mitch Lautenberg, it's nice to see your face. I didn't know who you were. You are correct. Over 40 other organizations, towns, and municipalities included within that have proudly raised that flag, regardless of what the Supreme Court decision was, because they understood the law and they weren't afraid to stand behind what they felt was important. Did I get it right?
Well, I don't know what attorneys you spoke to, but Boston was faulted by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
For not having a meaningful involvement in the selection or crafting of their messages. And there was a little more to this Supreme Court case, but the lack of, and if you read the case, and I have it in front of me, but Boston did not deny a single flag.
They did. Yeah, that's what brought this.
They did not deny a single flag for hundreds of requests, except this one.
Right, exactly,
Right.
yes. If I misspoke, it didn't
And-
present it the way you
and-
did, yes.
And so I think it's important to understand that in this particular question, the court was asked if that was a private speech. And it upheld that just because of the precedents and lack of specific policies that Boston failed to have. So that being said, the court was very, very particular with respect to the history, namely the approval of hundreds of flags and no denial, not one denial. And so the court then developed into the government speech versus private speech. And it held that this specific flag was private speech and that it was a First Amendment right. And so therefore it rejected Boston's denial.
Right, but that is not what is being brought up here as a fear-mongering tool, in my opinion, to say we shouldn't be flying this. It's completely different. It is a completely different circumstance. We have not approved hundreds of flags hanging. We do not have an ordinance in reference to the way that Boston did. And we are not in a situation right now where we would be looking at the difference between public speech versus governmental speech. Right now, what we did, would you agree, Mr. Dupont, is governmental speech. It's we are making a governmental decision based on the flag that we are hanging without any ordinance in the way. I might be asking you to be the Supreme Court
Well,
right now.
I'm not quite sure if I want to go to define whether it's government speech at this point in time, but I think that this case specifically referred to Boston's precedent, and that is approving hundreds of flags and having no meaningful, if you look at the case, it says here, no meaningful review. And the city did not deny a single request to raise a flag until 2017, which resulted in this lawsuit.
So we'll go back to original question then, and I'll echo what Mr. Esposito said, which was for you to state your original opinion. And because we are not Boston, that's one thing.
No,
we can-
my original opinion is that I was not worried about the liability issue
There you go.
regarding this issue presented before the mayor and council. You've done it previously, you've done it for the last 3 years. That wasn't the case. There is the question as whether you want me to or direct me to see what flag raising policies are out there. I can tell you right now, there are very, very, very few. I just learned of one today. I haven't seen the proposed ordinance. But normally of our 565 municipalities, they normally say, I want to fly a flag. They come to present and there's no policy, there's no application, there's nothing. So if you wish to direct me to do that, then I could certainly do.
So
Mayor, may I ask, that is exactly what I was asking for, so that we have some guidelines. Some of the notes I had taken were, for example, standards for consideration for the privilege of flying a flag. Possibly just a simple application like to a board. What we had was one person present their side for a full month. Another thing that I did have in my notes is, will we have a duration that we would fly any single flag? And the example that our attorney gave us today, there was that parameter in that particular guidance. This is the kind of guidance I'm looking for, because we do want to be open to all of our residents. We do want to be a welcoming place in Sayreville, but we want to be fair to everyone. We want to have a process in place, and knowing that there have been problems in other areas, we should be protecting our residents, the diversity that we have, and the ability to access that privilege.
Mayor, do you want me to continue on with my, where we were on roll call? All right. So-
Jess, roll call.
Yeah, Jess, I'm gonna go, right?
Yep, go ahead, Vince.
All right, under 2022-195, I'm gonna abstain from 22-03583 on the bill list for Sayreville Athletic Association.
Mhm.
Just abstaining on that. Everything else, I'm a yes.
Okay, thanks, Vince.
Sure.
June 4,
All the way.
Novak.
I would just like to say, in all my conversations with Don, I have no idea what was on Facebook. My nieces and nephews. But in every conversation I've had with Don, it is always she had no problem with it. It's always been, we have to have some sort of policy in place so that everybody feels like they need. Also, my preference is an ordinance because it has much more weight more than resolution.
Sorry. Should I start again?
You said such nice things. I should have turned the microphone on.
I have a habit. I've got such a big mouth. I forget that I need the mic to be taped. I feel I would like to see an ordinance that sets some sort of practice on, how you come and apply for this. I don't know exactly what that should be. The attorney handed us something tonight. I haven't even had the opportunity to read it, as some towns have set policy by ordinance. Again, like I said, resolution does not carry the weight of law the way an ordinance does. So to start, doing resolutions piecemeal, it really doesn't have the effectiveness of an ordinance. But as you said, I voted yes. This is the third year. I don't have a problem with the pride flag. I really do. If this gets approved tonight, I would still like to, if everybody agrees, to have Mr. Dupont look into something so that we can do an ordinance that'll set a standard for everybody that comes up. And, you know, let's say in this particular case, the flag was presented to us. Maybe that should be a requirement. I don't know. But you know what I mean? And that you have to come to the council meeting, you know, 30 days prior, you know, something like that. I would like to see some sort of policy written in an ordinance, but as far as flying the pride flag, it's been here for 3 years. I voted for it. I've got no problem with it, but I really do think that we need an ordinance that sets the standard for everybody that comes before us for a flag.
So there's no vote.
No, there is a vote.
There's still a
There's a
vote.
vote.
The vote on the agenda is allowing the pride flag to be on June. So far, we have all yeses. So far, we have all yeses. Part of our agenda.
Does the council agree with me to direct Mr. Dupont to do this? Because unless he's directed.
I think we need to finish with this and then.
Anoha,
Yes, but I would like to make a comment on consent agenda 197. You know, so regarding the flag, of course, and I'm really happy that, you know, we have our town, our borough to have residents to express their views on this. I think it's good for our government. It's good for our community. One thing I'll say is that, you know, many of us elected officials can use different bases and different guidelines, which is why there's so much interest to kind of create policies so that it's standard that can be around when we're no longer around, right? But pending to that legislation is put forth potentially, it's good that we see where everyone stands, right? What is the basis in which you're using to make these decisions? And I think for myself individually, you know, having an understanding that we have residents that come forward and say, hey, Councilman Christian or Borough and Mayor and Council, I don't feel safe. And they come forward to express it's based on whether it's race or in this case, gender and gender identity. And to look at the national statistics and discovering that it's not just a Sayreville challenge, but it's a national challenge. And I think the FBI reported that hate crime, not just towards race, but even towards gender and gender identity has increased so much and continues to increase. So when someone from that background comes forward and says, I don't feel safe, you know, and I'm not sure if this is an environment or a borough, you know, that will accept me. And this is one thing you can do that will be a good sign of faith or a signal that for myself, to my family, you know, these are what our residents are saying. One of them, Mr. Anthony, for example, is presenting this case. And for me as an individual, you know, I feel for that, right? Because I believe that all of our residents should feel safe. So for me as an individual, if putting a flag up is a good signal for you to feel safe, that this is a town that wants you to feel safe and will do whatever it takes for that. If raising a flag is what it takes, that I don't see why that should be an issue. If other groups tomorrow, in my opinion now, come forward and say, listen, the truth is across the country, again, race is another thing too. I think the Asian community, it's 77% increase, hate crime for communities even based on race. This is not even a race issue. It's gender identity, which is not even as high up in terms of hate crimes. So again, I don't even think this is even the most controversial, but if in the future, there are other groups who come forward and say, hey, I also don't feel safe. And these are the reasons why. And there's so much data to show that really that's just beyond our town. This is happening across the country. And they come forward with different things or different ideas that we as a government can consider to help our residents feel more safe. I don't see why that's a problem to consider on a case-by-case basis, depending on you know, the views of our residents. I think that's how government should work. But then again, we can also advance it to legislation. So it isn't a case-by-case basis, it's standard across the board. But again, finally, you know, in terms of feeling safe, there are different groups that the data does show are being targeted and they're being victimized more than others. So I don't mind it being on a case-by-case basis. And in this case specifically, I don't mind supporting it because the data does support it, that they are being targeted. There is hate and the hate is increasing. So if raising a flag is what it takes to make them feel much more safe, then, you know, so be it. So again, I'm really glad to support 2020-197 and the rest on the list as well. So yes, again, thank you.
Roberts.
I do ask that before we put forth a resolution, that we have a standard. And some of the things that our attorney provided us with today include things such as the guest must deliver the appropriate size flag to the city and retrieve the guest flag after the raising. The flag must be clean and serviceable with dimensions that are identified. We also have, if ordered, flags may be lowered to comply with flag code, so we should be adhering to flag code. Another guideline, this was in what was supplied today as an observation, guest flags will normally only be flown for 24 hours or less. Some of the things that we would ask for in this would include requests to raise flags. And this is not me, because I have my list that it's handwritten about what I would think.
So that's an example of an ordinance.
Of what I would be looking for, because mine is, what would our application process be? What would we do? Would we want a petition, a referendum, an application? What are our standards, size, duration, cost? That's in the example. Flag flying standards, rules with the US flag, number of days to be flown. How do we deal with the situation where there's a half-mast day? How do we take it down daily? We should be in a committee with the veterans and also included, because if we're going to be sharing time with the American flag, we want to make sure we follow all the rules. Standards for consideration that are going to be consistent to all that might apply. It shouldn't interfere with any of the other flag raising standards. And again, a committee would be useful to make sure that we covered all our bases. But just simple things like, how do we request contact information, the event or occasion, date or time period. I like the idea that there is a time frame that is going to be a standard. So if it's going to be any longer than that, we would have to reconsider it. The explanation of the purpose or event, description of the applicant organization, including any local, national, international affiliations, brief history, website address, nonprofit status, any other relevant information. Applicants will be required to pay for the security, custodial, or other costs. These are some things that we should consider before we take on any other requests. These are just standard procedural things I'm asking for.
Just for clarification, you had stated earlier that that was what our attorney presented.
I read it from this page.
But Mike, did you present that
No,
to
that-
us?
It's not presenting.
Sorry.
I gave them as
The example.
as an example.
Oh, okay.
So that, as I explained to you, that if the mayor and council directs me, this is a foundation that I can work for a policy, if the council so chooses to have that done.
And I had actually asked for some policy and guidance early May when this came up, so that we could have this discussion before anyone presented for any kind of request, because that is when the case was highlighted by the New Jersey League of Municipalities.
That's what I said the last month, that there are no policies here in our municipalities. The DCA doesn't give any guidance. Many municipalities do not have any policies, don't have procedures, they have nothing. So if the mayor and council directs me, I've given you all what I'm able to find out there. This case is relatively new. I can certainly draft some draft policies or procedures if you so want.
And another point is that it's not another year until this issue will come up again. I don't see the urgency of making this decision tonight until we can come up with a consistent, agreed upon policy by this council.
I thought we just voted.
Is there anybody else? Yeah, Donna, you need to vote whether you're,
So there is no opportunity that we could I would like to table resolution 2022-197 until such a time that we have a policy to agree on, because we have a
Under
year.
Robert's rules, don't you have to vote no or yes, and then you would have to turn around and move forward? I mean, we already went through a vote. And then you would make a motion to table it after that vote. And then you'd have to get a motion and a second. She can motion, then there'd have to be a second, and then there would have to be a vote on whether or not to table. I mean, the flag's already out there. I really, this is my personal opinion. This is my personal opinion here, people. And I think you hear very clearly, this isn't about other flags. She says we have a year to make this decision. And what happens in a year? A gay pride flag comes up. I mean, I don't know. I'm not, you can turn around and put any limitations, anything that you want. You can put as many restrictions. You can form a committee. I still don't understand what the problem is. If an organization wants to come up and ask permission to fly a flag, which, by the way, I'm also getting really tired of this ridiculousness that this pride flag is sharing a space with the United States flag or a POW flag. It's totally false. The flagpole was put up 3 years ago when a young man bought the pride flag to be hung. We didn't want to add that to the American flag or to flagpoles and do any type of disservice to the flags that we already proudly hang. So that flagpole was installed by I believe it was our maintenance team, just to hang that particular flag because that's what we were faced with. If another organization wanted to hang a flag, I get really tired of that. Listen, exactly what I told you a few minutes ago is what's going on. Okay, how hard is it? You're either for hanging this flag now or not. And we can have the discussion later about how restrictive you want flag access to
Go ahead
be.
and do that. Let's vote, go ahead and vote this, but I do want a policy that is going to address.
It's your turn to vote. Are you voting yes for the pride flag in June? That's the resolution. Then you would turn around after we close this, and then you can address Mr. Dupont, and the council can decide whether they want him to start looking into drafting ordinances in reference to restricting individuals or groups or having to follow.
Anyone.
Well, that's exactly what you're doing anytime you put into this type of thing. I see it for what it is. This is my opinion.
You know, wait a minute, point of order. Mayor,
You call point of order all you
you
want.
know you're not supposed to speak like that. You used to go after Kennedy O'Brien
Not
every damn
supposed to
time you did.
speak like
It's
what?
our rules of order that you do not go after a council
I'm
person
not going
personally
after a councel
and
person.
say that, that,
Time to vote.
It's just time to vote.
then
Just
let her
vote.
speak. It's her turn. You
I'm
had your
waiting for
turn.
her to vote.
Let her vote.
If I could, it's Councilwoman.
It's ridiculous.
Councilwoman Roberts.
Just vote.
floor, and she has the right to vote and express. her-
I think we know where I stand. I will vote yes to the consent agenda items, and I would like to have a policy on how we're going to apply for flags in the future.
Okay, that is the next
Done.
point of business. Ladies and gentlemen, she voted yes for the pride flag.
I
There
voted
you-
yes so that we can move on and get a policy that will be equal to everyone.
What does that mean when you said you voted yes to move
Because
on?
we're going to be able to have a policy that we all agree on.
Oh, okay.
Did you not vote yes because she just texted you to vote yes? Because I saw it happen. You just got texted by your party leadership to vote yes.
There's no public comments.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there is no public comment at this time, but there is a public session after this. So now we can, is there anybody else? So she voted, you voted yes on consent agenda resolution.
Yes, on all of them.
Okay,
That
Great.
is, I want to have a policy so that we can.
you can
address-
do that as soon as we
I did.
close
I
this.
just Voted, we close it and then.
Right, but now you want to make another comment. Let's close this out before we close out and adjourn. See, that's how Robert's rules does work. Now you can turn around before we close and adjourn. You can ask the council whether they wish to direct Mr. Dupont to look into flag ordinances.
Too much background and people in the audience.
Yeah, audience, I do need to have calm and quiet. So now, Jess, we have now concluded with our roll call vote. So it's 100% yes for the keeping of the pride flag, okay? For all resolutions, with the exception of those that Mr. Conti abstained from. Okay, now we can move forward with any additional comments from the council. Donna, this would be your opportunity now to ask the council whether they wish to direct Mr. Dupont, whatever it is you want him to do.
Mr. Dupont, would you please create a policy that we can discuss at our next council meeting so that we may apply equal access to any organization that may want to petition us for the privilege of flying a flag?
And just to follow up Mr. Dupont, right? When it comes to the flag, the concern is even if you draft a policy is, what if tomorrow another group says, we don't care about flags? This other thing is what we want. It could be a street, painting a street. They're different things. So can you go potentially further to not just limit it just to flags? Because this can become another thing again tomorrow when they say, oh, you let this person fly a flag, why can't we do this instead? So I don't want you just limited to if possible.
I think I don't want to expand it. I don't know what else they would want to do on borough-owned property. It will take some time to address this thoroughly. This is not something that I take lightly, or that there are as many examples out there. So if the borough would give me some time, it might need a little more than 30 days to look at this. That would be appreciative. I found a couple towns, one in New Jersey, one outside. So it will take some time. So if the mayor and council directs me to, I will, do my best to obtain the information for it.
May I say something?
Of course.
Just want to say to Councilman Noha. Nobody can do anything on the streets. That's covered by the state Title 39. They painted a blue line once in front of.
It was just a general example. It doesn't have to be limited to streets overall.
Signs, any kind of
Streets.
signs are covered under our ordinances already. So I'm just saying that some of those things are already covered.
I appreciate that, but I think overall, new things can come up, so that we can address it one time from a more from an application standpoint. Maybe it doesn't have to be limited to only flags, but just overall, so that groups can feel like they can express their requests overall.
We do have a policy in place for banners and things like that, which we've used in reference to carnival advertisements and things like that, and for streets. Yeah.
Banners or signs or anything
Mhm.
like that.
I'm sorry, I have a question, please. And this is for Mr. Dupont. Since we're talking about policy, this may be a little sidetracked, but I think there should be a policy for appointments to boards and commissions. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if we're voting for these people to be a part of boards, the least they can do is show up to at least a council meeting. Even if it's a council member, they should even present their position as to why they would want to be on this board and what they would do on this board. I would like to hear that from them.
We consistently get people on the borough council fill these forms out and not even express the reasons why they want to.
Some
be
don't
on
even
the board.
finish
It's-
filling
They
that
don't
out.
even finish it, and it happens consistently, I mean that.
All because
I mean
we
that
know
with
them, or they
respect.
probably, I don't know everyone. So at least I want to hear you, at least.
That's a very good point. I like that.
And I've been thinking that for a while, but I was trying to find out when to bring it up. And I'm glad that this is a platform when Councilman Roberts brought up a policy. This is a platform where we can also bring this up too.
Mhm. That's a very good point. Can we, Mike, can you look into that as well?
Well, I think one thing is that when they complete the application, maybe they complete it in full. And let's, maybe I'll sit down with Jess and see if there's any other attendance requirements that we can implement, which is in compliance with our borough ordinance for the commissions or.
Yeah, she's not talking about
No, I
meeting
know, but
requirements. She's about-
she's talking about attending council meetings for the purpose of introducing themselves, whether it's
Yeah.
a he or she, to a specific board. So obviously that's not a.
That's a pretty good idea. I
Yeah,
like it.
It's not an unusual request in light of the fact that, you're asking to serve on a board.
And some of these boards have legal, some things are being decided that don't even get
There
to
are
come
some-
to the
there are some-
council,
there are
especially in the redevelopment agency.
Well, let's, I'll sit down and I'll sit down with Jess and we'll see what we're doing.
That sounds good. Good point. Thank you both.
Appreciate it, sir.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if there's no other business of the council, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
The public portion.
Oh, I'm sorry, public portion. How good, there's been quite a lot of public involvement. So public portion now on any and all items, not just restricted of the resolution. I'll start in the back, 'cause I don't have anybody. I'll start all the way in the back and move forward, especially people. So in the green shirt, yes. And you also haven't been up yet, so. I know, I understand. I remember you, no problem.
Mike Donahue, 27 Charles Street.
Yes.
The Old Bridge section of Saraville.
Yes.
This is a follow-up to June 27th meeting about the roads being repaved. I think the borough engineer said that someone's going to come out and assess the roads. So we're wondering if there's any information.
Go ahead, Jay.
Mayor, we did go out and assess the roads as discussed. I provided a report in your packet. It's on the agenda for discussion at your next.
At the agenda meeting.
Agenda meeting.
Yes. So what happened?
The next meeting.
No, the next agenda, we have them, after we adjourn this meeting, we have that other agenda meeting. So yes, tonight, but in a little while. Don't know how a little while means, but.
And I did drive through. I just wanted to let you know, I drove through and I noticed the very poor conditions of both Charles and William Street. I believe the street though, that was partially prepped is William. So William would be the one that would be finished on the next agenda.
You're very welcome. Thank you both. Thank you. So, yes. To that left, to our left, yeah, left. I'm sorry, if there's anybody on the right that wishes to speak, just know I have a screen in front of me, so it's difficult to see. So go ahead, please. I will ask for your name and address again.
Christina Angeles, 33 Hensler Lane. So like I had said before, I recently here at Sayreville, I'm a single mom. I bought the house on my own. And one of the biggest reasons that I purchased this house was because I was renting on Staten Island on Highland Boulevard. And if any of you know anything about Highland Boulevard, it is a death trap. In fact, I saw somebody mow down in front of my house one time. There was 3 teenagers killed this weekend in Staten Island. So the biggest thing that really drew me to buying a house here was having a safe place for my kids to play, and they did. So my children love riding their bikes up and down the street, riding their scooters, playing with their friends, walking the dog, whatever the case is. The problem though, is that there are absolutely no traffic signs. So when you come around, I want to say it's Mullen. This is a last minute thing of me coming here because of an incident I had this afternoon. And I said, I have to get myself here. I believe it's Smullen. When you come around Smullen onto Hensler, it's like whoosh. So, and then there's French Street. So it's French, Smullen, Hensler. They zoom around. My kids know they're not allowed to go on that end of the street because it's dangerous. But then you have people coming in from the other side of Hensler, from Washington, or you have people coming up Albert. There is about 5 intersections with no stop signs, no yield signs, no children signs. There is 1 stop sign coming from a dead end block to Hensler, which makes no sense because there's like 5 houses up there. So anyone who's coming down, they know, they have to be careful. So all of the other places, it's very dangerous. Now, last September, I put out a children at play sign in front of my house, just enough so people could see it and slow down. And my neighbor called the police on me. 5 cop cars came to my house and asked me to move the children at play sign because God forbid a motorist doesn't see the sign in time and slams into a fence. I says, oh, well, God forbid a motorist doesn't see my child in time and slams into my kid. You have to kind of like use common sense here. Fall came, winter came, we weren't outside as much. Now the kids are outside playing again. Yesterday, my daughter was riding her bike. She says, my neighbor up the hill sped up behind her, and she's 10 years old, and she really very rarely goes outside because there's no like girls for her on the block. So the one time she's finally outside riding her bike, this guy comes right behind her, and she said if she didn't jump out, he would have hit her. So okay, today they go outside again. I usually sit outside with them, but I wasn't out there just yet. So I said, please don't let them intimidate you. We have a separate issue with this particular person, but now they're trying to attack my children, intimidate my children. And I said, stand your ground, you know, that you see them coming, you stand there. And you let them know that he's not going to be speeding. But the fact is that he can speed because there is nothing restricting his speed. They did it again this afternoon, right behind my daughter, Zoom. I approached the neighbor and she says, watch your children better. So there's absolutely nothing that I can do to keep my kids outside playing safely. You know, I can't put a sign outside myself, the cops come. I can't watch them, or, you know, I can't have them ride their bike or walk the dog because I got to worry about them zooming down. 2 weeks ago, I was walking the dog. The kids came around the bend. I says, get out of the street, get out of the street, without a car even coming because I know it's dangerous. All of a sudden, this pickup truck, zoom. And I will admit, I am a crazy mother. I yelled, you know, obviously I was like, you gotta slow down. But now I'm just making myself look crazy. You know, like now I'm just a crazy person on the block screaming at people for, you know, speeding with the cars and things like that. So with that said, I wanted to know if out of that $40,000 budget you got for transportation, if there are ways to get some type of speed protection or some type of protection for our children. And it's not only my children. There's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other kids in the immediate area who don't come outside because their parents are so afraid of the cars. So, you know, it's a dangerous situation here. And I don't want to keep my kids locked up in the house. They already spent the first 8 years of their lives in an apartment. You know, I bought this house for them. They have a beautiful backyard, but they want to be able to ride their bike, walk the dog, see their friends without having to worry about being mowed down by the cars. And whether they're speeding or not, I can't tell you. I don't have a radar gun. Some of them do come across fast. But again, it's just, they can just go around this way, around that way, this way. It's crazy. So
first,
that is why I'm here.
First, very simple. One of the things I can definitely tell you is that Sergeant Burrell, whether he's on the call or not still, he listens and Councilwoman June Forth will tell you, he listens and he watches our council meetings either on rerun or live. So I know for a fact, you will more than likely hear from him. Councilwoman June Forth is actually our public safety liaison. So I know Councilwoman June Forth, did you want to offer what you'll do as the liaison? Like I said, I know Sergeant Burrell is going to be listening. So would you be reaching out to him as well and others?
Thank you so much, Mayor. And I appreciate you, Miss Angeles, for even coming out. Can you please spell your street for me?
HENSL. HENSLER. There might be an S. Sometimes it has an S, sometimes it doesn't.
This is Avenue or Street?
Lane.
It's Lane.
Okay.
Yeah, just that's it. Yeah.
Can you give me like any connecting streets?
Yeah, so
French, Smullen.
So yeah, French, Smullen, Albert would be the connecting streets.
Okay. I will definitely contact Sergeant Burrell and most definitely he'll watch this council meeting after, usually watches it.
Yeah,
He
and
won't be
then-
contacting you directly.
Thank you so much. And then in the meantime, because I haven't put out the children at play sign since the police came to my house, can I put out a children at play sign?
I don't believe that you can, but I'm not sure. That's something we would have to ask Sergeant Burrell about. I'm not going to. I know I've seen them. I've seen them.
I did put it out a little bit into the street,
Yeah.
but it wasn't obstructing traffic. in any
Mr.
way.
Dupont might be able to give some insight on that as well.
Right. If it's not in a public right of way, not in the street, nothing that will cause a blockage of.
I'm sorry, it's sorry.
Of the public right of way. I think that as long as you keep it in your yard or something that's not in the public
On
right
your
of way,
pro-
such as a street or a sidewalk, I think you're okay.
Okay, yeah, it's not visible that way.
I do think, though, that you should probably reach out also to our police officers. Because from what you were describing, I have some concerns, but again, it's
I
something.
actually did make a report today with the Sayreville Police Department regarding that particular
Yeah.
person.
I do think that there might be
yeah.
a couple layers of things here, but at least from a council perspective, Councilwoman June Forth is excellent, as is Sergeant Burrell. As you can see, we take all of these
Yes,
complaints very
yes.
seriously. You will hear from Sergeant
I
Burrell
appreciate it.
personally. Councilwoman June Forth will make certain of it.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you for coming. First meeting, pretty exciting there. Yes, come on up. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just saw the hand after. You're on next. That one was the podium, actually, that was obstruction.
Hi,
Alexa, are you now live?
I am live now. Right. So Alexa Harris, 47 East Cup Street. This is in reference to the sergeant's report. I think he did a great job with collecting data, but I think continuing enforcement may be an inappropriate use of funds or amenities that we have at hand. Seems like a matter of poor urban planning or city planning or engineering, but I'm sure the engineers did the best that they could with what was available. But it seems that like there could be other uses or other things that we could look to implement, such as speed bumps, speed cushions, chicane. And chicane is in terms of transportation lingo, increases the amount of public space available on a corridor, therefore extends the curb, and can be activated using benches, biking, parking, other amenities such as like a bike lane. It can be a visual cue, just as like painting like an S curve, and that narrows the road. Why do people speed on a street that's so wide like North Edward? It's long documented in transportation and urban planning that a wider the street is, the more speeding there is, because people don't feel so crammed and feel like they have that capacity to speed. North Edwards right now is wide enough for people to park on both sides and for another moving vehicle to pass through fine. So again, other things could be chicane effect, speed bumps, speed cushions, and a neighborhood greenway, narrowing the lanes using a bike lane and curb extensions as mentioned. And it seems that many streets in Sayreville, although we are mildly considered a suburban municipality borough, population density still increases, and we haven't been catching up with the layout, with the engineering of the streets to reflect that. So I just wanted to advocate for the mayor and council to consider that. And so sure, the speed signs and street signs are very important and do help, but I don't think that they are the one solution. We could be looking at, silver buckshot solutions, and to consider, since the pandemic, more and more people have been bicycling and have appreciated the outdoors even more, I think. And I think what the borough could do to support that change is to reflect the needs and the increasing needs. For anyone who's really wants to bike or feel safe walking outside, even just with their dogs, people can look to like Copenhagen, which did not happen overnight. Copenhagen was never Copenhagen in the first place. It took a lot of government discussions and planning and changes to happen. But in particular to North Edward and the other streets mentioned by the previous member of the community, I think some planning elements as mentioned could be examples to look at and examine further on. But yeah, I just don't think that the electronic speed sign would really change a lot of behavior.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
Thank you. You've given me some interesting food for thought. Good
Yeah, I
answer.
think maybe like looking to like the planning board might be another option as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So anybody else from the public wish to speak? Yes. Here we go. Thank you for your patience. I apologize.
Tom Fritzen, 143 Main Street. I do have to say that if anybody, I have to compliment the sergeant, because to much of my dismay, I think 2 or 3 months ago, he showed up at my door and it freaked out my wife because the ring went off and she was like, why are the police at the house?
Oh, no.
So I work from home, so I was just like, and my daughter came up and said, there's a policeman at the door. So, but no, we had a great conversation. We actually had a couple of conversations, and he will get back to people. So it is very good to know that. One of the things he kept saying to us is not, saying to me is, yeah, they can put the road signs up and they can do all that stuff. And I know there's money now, or they're getting more money for the budget, but he seemed to, and I don't know, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or anything, but most of his comments was manpower. I mean, the traffic department only works 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And that's it. And I don't know if you can, I live on Main Street, and between the hours of 8 and 2 o'clock in the morning, cars come ripping by here going like, I would say maybe 50, 60 miles per hour every night. And they have those banging cars too that backfire and all that kind of stuff. And then also I'll wake up in the middle of the night because trucks come running through Main Street. And I have a couple of man covers or potholes and you hear them bang and
rattle.
everything. And my house shakes and it wakes me up at night. So it's a matter, I think, of manpower. We had a conversation Memorial Day. It was because I'm right next to Sayreville Seafood and all the cops come in and get their ham and cheese sandwiches. So he was there that day and we talked some more about it. But yeah, he's very responsive to anything that you talk to him about. So he was very good about that. So that was a very great report that he did on Edward Street. I would wonder if he would consider doing it on Main Street.
I think he may have. Oh, he did when you had, yes, he did. Yeah.
That machine, when they put it out there.
Right, generates a
it
report.
calculates Speed, the time of day,
Right.
road conditions and everything.
Yeah.
Because I know one of our conversations was, I know those speed signs do collect data.
Mhm.
And he said, well, I have to, ask the county road if I can put it out there and then we'll collect the data and I'll let you, but
Yeah, that's,
yeah, I know it's out there
But-
now. So, or it's out
Yeah.
this week, so hopefully he'll have a report that maybe he can read. But yeah, he's very responsive and I appreciate the council for helping me out with this because it's getting dangerous still on Main Street.
I agree. Thank you so much.
It seems like all over town.
Yeah,
Just Main
it's,
Street.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know either.
And I will say, I've watched a
Noted, yeah.
couple, I had the pleasure of watching a few council meetings from other municipalities. This is exactly the same type of conversations. I'm like, oh, well, at least there's one thing that I know is not just, novel to us.
I know it's something we can't do here, but I know that South Amboy, every road in South Amboy is 25 miles per hour. Every road.
Well, let's see, South Pine. No, I don't think it's every, because Bordentown going through there, I don't think is 25, but South Pine is going down until you get into the Morgan section. And it's not. Then it's, but yeah, a lot of their main roads are, you're right, but they are small.
Yeah, I know. I get that. They're small, and I know, and we have a lot more county roads, I think. here.
That we do. Thank
Sorry,
you so
Mr.
much for your
Frickson.
comments.
Sorry,
and-
sir.
Oh,
Thank you.
Sorry,
What time did you say again?
I'm sorry.
What time did you say that, according to you, that the car's speed pass?
Oh, well.
You said
it's
8
kinda
p.m.
hard to say because I
You said
work from
8 p.m.
home.
to 2 a.m.?
Yeah, 8 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Okay.
I
Sent you
live
that
right
in my
across- I think
email.
From Cow Street, I think, my house. I swear if you put a police car there between the hours of like 8 and 2 o'clock in the
Okay.
morning, you're gonna make a lot of money.
we make a lot of money. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got more. Come on up.
I hate to do this, but I gotta go back to the consent agenda. When I ran for council, my slogan was taxpayers first.
Name and address, I'm sorry.
Frank Bella, 5 Keenan Street. Okay? On the consent agenda, you spent almost $8 million to pay this month's bill. Plus you authorized another $2 million in bonding of future taxpayer money. Nobody said a word, not a boo. And that's your job. That's what you're here to do, is make local government run. We can leave it to the idiots in Washington to discuss things that are a waste of time and a waste of money, okay? I have to write my check for my taxes next month, and people have their taxes taken out every month in their mortgage. And I'd like to know, for the years I've been coming, the biggest issues have been engineering fees and legal fees. We paid legal fees for every mistake prior councils have made, whether it's fair housing agreements or disputes about zoning or the temple Mr. Robinson referred to, cost millions, tens of millions of dollars to the taxpayers over the years for legal fees. Mr. DuPont, in all respect to you, I know your time is valuable, but I'd like to know how much money are the taxpayers going to waste on this stupidity?
Which
If you want to do it pro bono, I have no problem, but I don't think you want to do it pro bono.
I guess the question that I'm having is specifically, what are you referring to?
Well, yeah, the council is asking you to look into this.
On the.
Are you gonna cap your expenses to this to $2,000 or the open-ended or, the council gonna put a limit on how much of the taxpayers' money we're gonna waste about flying a flag from the flagpole? It just really incensed me. I was talking in the back with Mrs. Kilcummon, lifelong Democrat, ran for council. I don't know if she's still a Democratic committee person or not, but I mean, I was appalled. I couldn't contain myself. The stupidity of spending an hour. You spent $10 million of my money and nobody spent anything for 5 minutes. We spent an hour talking about a flag. And I can't let it sit. No respect, in all respect to you, I don't expect you to do it for nothing, but I don't want to see my money wasted on this stupidity.
No disrespect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bella. You make good point. I agree wholeheartedly. Mr. Bella, though, before you leave, way back in, go ahead, Mr. No, you don't have to come up, but I will say this. Back in January, I had many concerns about cost and about the fact that we get one professional to apply for the positions that are here within the town. I asked this council to delay appointments for our professionals in order to get more competition. And in that competition means also competition in price and other things. And I could not get support for that. This was before January. This was when our newest council people had come on. I got some support and that is the beginning of it, but I agree with you. The bills are the bills and we can ask our professionals to do anything we want.
But it's not for free.
It's going to come at a ka-ching. And I could not, and maybe I didn't articulate it clearly enough. But, something like an ordinance, a flag ordinance, like you said, it's going to cost us who knows how much money in order to research, draft, come up with, do this, Just come up and ask, and then you find out where we stand. It's ridiculous, but so is the way of the world. I don't get a vote.
And in your comment about, looking for RFPs, request for proposals, it's a political question. It's a matter of who has the vote. You count to 4, and then you get plenty of people to put in their resumes or put in a request if they think they have a chance to get it.
I
You
know.
don't have 4 votes, they're not going to waste their time and money writing a proposal and submitting it.
But
just
this time
to
it
be
was a
considered.
3-3. That's what made it different, Mr. Bella, because you know politics just like I do.
Well, unfortunately, I spent 3 years up there.
Yeah.
And a
So-
little bit more with Mary, so about 3.5 years
Yeah.
up there. Thank
But
you.
You're right. Anybody else? I do have a hand up online. Let me see. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson, 11 Burrell Square. I know that when Mr. Bontempo spoke, he didn't open it to the public. So I did have a comment with respect to that. And I appreciate very much that the council has taken seriously the issue of the rent increases because some of the numbers I heard are astronomical and really have to feel for those people. I don't know very much about rent control. I had a conversation with the tax assessor though, just to make sure that he was clued in here because unlike residential property, commercial property pays taxes based on the income they generate. And so when rents go up, taxes should go up. And I want to ensure that that is done. I think that's very important. Might influence their decision, might not, I don't know. The same thing, I raised the same issue a couple of years ago with the tax assessor about billboards. We used to tax billboards as just it's a piece of wood, on which you glued something. And they didn't charge an awful lot. Well, now these things are digital and they make an awful lot of money, and those things ought to be based on their income. And I asked Joe 2 years ago if he would take that into consideration. He promised me he would. I don't know if he did or not, but we have an awful lot of billboards going up in town. They are generating a tremendous amount of money, and they ought not to be taxed just on the physical elements, the steel or whatever, they ought to be taxed based on their income. And I think I'd appreciate it if the governing body would ensure that that takes place because, if everybody pays their fair share, everybody else pays less. So I would appreciate if somebody would take that on and look into that. And lastly, just one more question. Are we still a tree city?
As far as the sign says, we are.
Okay,
But I could be wrong. I don't have I don't have any representatives here, but I believe at the last shade tree, the last time Art Rittenhouse came, I do believe that he acknowledged that we were still a tree city.
okay, all right. Well, I hope that won't change.
I hear you, Jim. All right, come on up. But is so I'll limit it because it's like the third, fourth, I think, second in person, third or second virtual. So please make it brief though.
Alexa Harris, 47 East Cup Street. This is only about the resolutions, right?
No, this is a public comment.
Anything? Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Just
Okay.
remember, 5 minutes, please.
Okay. So this is going back on the rent uptick. So we don't have the jurisdiction or the power right now as a municipality to put in rent control because the buildings are built after 1987, but we do have the opportunity to put inclusionary ordinances for there to be a percentage of low income and affordable housing. Affordable housing is great for people starting their careers.
We actually have a affordable housing attorney that we do this with. So please, when it comes to affordable housing, we have actually brought on the best. And I think we can all agree on that here, and we don't often agree on much sometimes. We have the best affordable housing attorney who actually wrote law on affordable housing that makes certain that we follow the Mount Laurel decision and that the violations that existed because of that. So we have absolutely, when it comes to the affordable housing, if there's developers or places that don't have the units in it that need to be, trust me, we are fighting in whatever capacity we can in order to make sure that the law is upheld and done. We went into multiple, probably tens of thousands of dollars worth of litigation in order to win out on those affordable housing rules, laws, and mandates from the previous administration and mayor that sat here.
Right. And I was trying to get familiar with that because you guys directed me to the housing authority and they redirected me back to the mayor and council because they were like, we don't really have any jurisdiction. But I just wanted to raise awareness also on low income housing inclusionary ordinance. I couldn't find any language on that. And I think that's something that's also overlooked a lot. And then also it's just again, I've made this comment before, but affordable housing and low income housing, they're two different things. Affordable housing is, I think, fair price.
We definitely know the difference for certain.
Right.
I'm glad that you also have brought that up. Most people don't know the difference, but we are very well trained and well versed on that because of the expertise of Mr. Serenian and Mr. Edwards, which is our legal counsel for affordable. Most people don't realize they construe or change and think affordable housing the same as low income or what used to be Section 8, and it's not.
So I guess as I've said, in Camelot, there's 1 to 3 per property that's very low income housing. If we can look into all the parameters on increasing that ratio, that'd be great.
Yeah, I wish we could.
We get funding. We get funding for our schools. So it's just, I think it's very interesting.
They made that was a deal that was struck within that with that developer many, many years before.
I understand, yeah.
And we fought hard to stop that. But that's one of the reasons why we had the problem and the low number of affordable housing for so many years. I stand very firm that we will never allow sweetheart deals to developers again that allow them to skirt their obligation as far as affordable low income or anything else. And then turn around and sue us. Exactly. Right. Oh, absolutely not. We are absolutely, as a matter of fact, the planning board, I think we enacted I'm trying to think what we put on the books there, making certain that there would be no deals made. Jay, do you remember that? What was that, number of years ago that we said that absolutely no developers would be allowed to build without reaching.
We have an ordinance that addresses development and affordable housing.
Yeah, where before we did not have that.
What's the percentage? Like the highest I hear is 20% for affordable.
It's under law, it's minimum is 20%. We could always try and force more, but under law, we had to put in what our minimums were based under the state statute.
Yeah, because the middle class is not just 20% of the population and the very.
Yeah,
low
they were trying to get a 1-to-6 ratio for every 6 market rate. They were trying for only 1 affordable. We stopped that. But it was, I wish you started coming sooner. Because you bring up some very, very bright, very smart points. But I wish I could give you the history and things that took us for many, but please rest assured, at least in reference to that, we're on top of it.
Gotcha. I would have come sooner if.
I meant a few years ago.
No, I mean, I'm 24, but if information about the council was a little bit more publicized.
I will say you're welcome then, because that was one of the things that I worked very hard in order to do.
Thank you. Maybe post it in all the buildings, like the library. But anyway, another thing I wanted to raise issue was that the last time I was here to speak about the gas plant proposal that's going to be proposed to be built in Kearney Woodbridge. So when we were here, myself and the activist Charlie Cradaville from Food and Water Watch,
He's
we
here.
were assured once again that presentation will be put on the agenda for the next meeting, but that did not happen.
No, they didn't want it. Your
They-
board did not. So what they
Yeah.
did was they sent a letter instead asking that the council draft a resolution in opposition of that. I have not, the council did not make a determination that night that they would
An
do so.
opposition against the presentation?
No, an
or-
opposition against the building, the
Yes,
plant.
Yeah, because there hasn't been a great sense of communication between the council and
So,
the.
Chair, if I
and the
may,
board.
I
Go
did
ahead.
speak to the chair and co-chair, and they decided that our decision that night would stand.
Okay, because I've reached out and I was thinking.
Wait, that our decision, what? I don't think we voted.
We
Yeah, I
did
don't
not
remember.
oppose that. We didn't put the resolution.
Yeah, we didn't.
Put the resolution on. They were fine. They said that they didn't want to pursue it any further. I spoke to both the chairman
Okay.
and the co-chair, and
So the environmental commission did not wish to pursue the, okay.
Okay, because I think in all the emails that, including where you're CC'd, I've inquired and no one has responded to me for a couple of weeks, but I wanted to ask if the mayor, you yourself would like to have a meeting and you could discuss the issue with myself and Charlie, if we could like bring this up again, if it's possible, and.
You guys can, listen, I have been doing research nonstop. I have absolutely no, I was one of the people, and I spoke with Jessica, making sure that the presentation was put on for the agenda for that to be done. And as a matter of fact, at the last council meeting, I had Charlie, you had come up and you read that letter into the record, and and basically gave you the floor for that presentation. My feelings are very clear, and I think I put it on the record with how I felt in reference to where we are at this point. Unfortunately, though, I don't get to move something as the mayor. I can point it towards the council as far as what they want to carry forward. It's just our form of government. I'm considered a weak mayor, which I kind of think is funny because it's totally not within any description that was ever made of me ever in 44 years of life almost. But I am very sympathetic to this. I also am very concerned for it. I've had the opportunity to reach out to the other municipalities, Perth Amboy and other places. And I completely hear and understand why they're in opposition of it. But the council then, from what I understand, is what you're saying, Donna, are you speaking on behalf of the entire council? The council has this.
I did not introduce that.
Okay, she did not introduce a resolution. Okay, so unless somebody from the council wishes to introduce a resolution, putting on the record in opposition of that, and then there would be a vote,
Right.
then that could happen.
The Environmental Commission goes any further detail as to why the land is changed?
I did speak with each of them, and they said from an environmental standpoint, it had merit, but there was also merit on the other side, and they didn't wish to pursue it at that time. Because we did discuss both sides of the both sides of the coin. Of course, from an environmental standpoint, having no emissions is great, but from a energy source and use, there's also merit there. And they were understanding of that during our discussions. If they want to open up the discussion again at the next meeting, I'd be happy to talk to them again.
I have no problem with another presentation being put on the agenda if they wish to come and speak.
If they wish to, I will.
Yeah, if they wish to.
I'll work with them at the next meeting.
Yeah. Walter,
I
yeah,
didn't speak to Shirley, Walter and I.
okay.
Would the mayor and council then be amenable to having a presentation done by activists? Like the Food and Water Watch, or other groups that would be interested in reaching out and sharing their concern and their research?
I mean, we're from a public buy-in, correct me if I'm wrong. If a group or organization wishes to speak, whether they're residents or not, they have the right to come and speak, and they will absolutely, we can't stop anybody from speaking publicly. Obviously, I will say this, I will give residents of the town first go at the microphone. That's just a courtesy for those that live here. But if any of those organizations or individuals from those organizations would wish to speak to us or wish to have their time at the microphone, that is not even a matter of a request. That is something that I will absolutely allow. And it's their right under law. So they can absolutely do that. I will say, though, it would still be limited to that 5-minute window, but you can have, we've had this happen when the marijuana debate was up. We had many groups and organizations come up. I would never limit that. That's
Okay.
part of free speech, the ability to speak and address those policymakers.
I would go back to the Environmental Commission and try to convince them to do a presentation, because I would be interested in hearing from them their thoughts.
Okay,
Yeah.
noted. And then also going back to tactical urbanism, bike lanes or the S curve, which is 6 chicane. I was thinking for the downtown area, what you can do is also another physical signal or amenity that would signal to drivers to slow down is in the downtown area from where Angelo's is to where Borough is, you can put in cobblestone, that is a physical and visual signal that there's pedestrians and to drive
That's
slower.
definitely, I love the idea. Main Street, though, is still a county road. So
Right.
that goes outside of our jurisdiction.
Understandable.
But one thing I will say, and hopefully this will, when Mr. Frankel comes back, I do believe that we renewed our, what's the word? I don't know, acceptance into the Safe City, Safe Streets initiative, the program.
Yes, yes.
It's something I pushed for many years ago.
Yep.
And a lot of these ideas are fantastic, but then we get limited to what legally we can do or what the engineering
Funding,
restrictions
yeah.
are. So we had a meeting with them a number of years back, and I think it would be worth it to have another meeting with them to try and come in and do an assessment for us in order, especially bike lanes is one of their big pushes. And I like that you brought up the certain streets. They have different protocols in place in order to do that, and what they determine is a safe way to do it. So I think it's worth having them come, also speak with the council again. And I can see if Dan Frankel can arrange that for us, because they have fantastic ideas, and I think they're directly in line with a lot of the things that you're mentioning too.
Mhm. Okay.
So thank you once again.
Thanks. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone coming out tonight.
Thanks for jumping in the car and coming to visit. It's good to see you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Crabville.
Frank Bella, Keenan Street. As a follow-up to the young lady, you brought up the attorney that represented the borough for the affordable housing.
Mr. Serenian, yes.
I assume he's the attorney that lost the case?
No, we won.
We won the case.
We won. Frank, where have you been?
And the judgment that came back was a win?
We got open space, Frank. I've got mayors calling me from other towns saying, how did you do this? Yes, we won. By almost 30%.
Yep, and we.
Of market rate housing. We got veteran preference housing. We turned around and actually put an end to some of the abuses that were happening by developers here. And we were able to purchase open space, which is across from ShopRite as part of Kennedy Park, which nobody thought ever. There's no town that can say in their legal fight that they not only won, but gained open space during affordable housing fighting.
Where was the judgment of all these affordable housing units? Did he reverse that judgment? Is that what you're saying?
What,
Am I behind? Am I illegal?
what we had to do was unravel. We had to negotiate and we had to negotiate with developers once again, because the original plan that was signed off by the previous mayor that was here, which allowed for certain developers to, in essence, have either zero affordable housing mandate or a 1-to-6 ratio. For every 6 market rate, only 1 affordable, which is obviously clearly below the 20% mandate under the Mount Laurel decision. We had to turn around and roll all of that back. So that meant that the agreement that the mayor had signed, which was ready to go forward, had to be completely stopped in its track, which right there was an unprecedented legal hurdle and something that we didn't think we were going to win. We did it. We had to bring in another planner. We had to eliminate certain attorneys from certain boards. And we turned around, reduced our overall market rate numbers by 30%. Got the affordable housing that we were required to fulfill under law, which, you know, if you've studied anything about that, you know how corrupt that whole system was with Wolfson and so forth. And we turned around and got the 100% affordable units, which was an unprecedented lift. And I do have to say that the redevelopment agency was instrumental in that. And I give kudos to them for enabling that project to go forward with a piece of the property that they had. Otherwise, Saraville would have been really, I'm going to say it, screwed. And we were able to do something, although people are angry at redevelopment, the fact that there's so much building here, it would have been much, much worse. And then we were able to enter into negotiations with Mr. Kaplan in reference to a plot of land that he wanted to develop, a part of Kennedy Park across from ShopRite. He turned around, we purchased that, and it is open space now. It was a prime piece of property, but now it is open space. It cannot be built on.
Could Mr. Frankel or someone from the borough put together how much all of those legal fees cost to the taxpayers?
I think that was done already, and I'm not going to lie to you, it was a big chunk of money. Actually, I think Denise was going into heart failure at certain points. She might even know the number. You probably wake up in a nightmare panic still thinking about it. So Denise is
Do you have
something.
an approximation? I won't hold you to a.
I can get you the number, but I can tell you that White Mountain County took a special emergency loan,
Mhm.
$600,000 in legal fees in the year of 2018 because they did not have enough money budgeted.
Yeah,
600,000 in legal fees.
600,000.
that was total. But that was total for the borough. That wasn't 600. That was just for our affordable housing bond, right?
Could you please look at it in the next council meeting? Just
Mhm.
if you give me a breakdown, do we have consultants? Did we have special attorney? Did we?
Yeah, well,
need
I mean,
Special planners? How much that total debacle cost the taxpayers? I'd like to know
a
that.
whole lot of money, and it would have been even larger had that gone through the original plan.
Here's the funny thing, Frank. We sued Kaplan to make him put in affordable housing. Won the case.
Yep.
And then didn't make him put in the affordable housing. So he turned around.
When you say
and sued us
we, hold on a
because
second.
we didn't-
Just make sure that we understand that in that case, that was under previous administration, previous group. Don't.
All of the, yeah.
Wasn't us.
Yeah,
all
you
of
get
these
it.
were Under the previous
yeah.
administration. I
Then the
know.
Then the same developer turned around and sued us because we didn't enforce affordable housing.
Yeah.
And won
And one.
originally.
And one. And then in essence, signed an agreement that did almost the exact same thing with a 6-to-1 ratio.
But it cost the taxpayers over 600,000.
Absolutely, Frank.
No, oh, definitely.
Mhm.
And I'm glad, that we did one.
Yeah.
But if you could work up the full cost
Yeah.
with all consultants.
It was
I
over
appreciate
the
it.
course of, I want to say, about 2.5 years worth of
Next
litigation.
council meeting.
No, I'm
rush.
saying that's how long that litigations had went.
All
So,
right, thank you.
thanks, Frank. Frank, you keep getting called back.
Clarify for Denise, you want just the legal fees or the planner's fees? Because we had a higher.
All fees involved in the total debacle.
Got it.
of the
Okay.
Previous administration. Okay?
Oh, everything or just this?
Whoa.
That's 20 years.
Thank you.
Well, yes, where you live. Yeah, no, I know. I'm well aware. Whew. Okay, luckily, she's on salary. So Go ahead. Name and address.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Charlie Cradaville. I'm
Hi,
the
Charlie.
Central Jersey organizer at Food and Water Watch, back once again to speak about the plans for a gas-fired power plant in the Casby section of Woodbridge.
Exactly. Don't be mad at me. I'm putting the 5 minutes on. It's been a long
Yeah,
public
understood. I
portion.
don't intend to prolong the meeting, but
I
I did
know.
have to follow up on some of the dialogue last time.
Absolutely.
It's been enlightening to hear the recent discussion tonight, and, hopeful that there will be, at least 3 council members ready to back this and get this passed, because time is of the essence. This application is before the DEP right now. They're conducting a review of the air permit application, and we anticipate that review will last until the fall, at which point we'll have a very brief window of opportunity for the public to have input, and then a final decision possibly before the end of the year. So this is an urgent environmental justice issue here for your residents. And I have to follow up on the discussion last time. I had asked some questions and followed up with an email to Councilwoman Roberts on June the 28th and again on July 8th, and I haven't heard back. So through you, Madam Mayor, can Councilwoman Roberts acknowledge it? Did she get my email? With my
Sure.
questions?
Go ahead.
I did get the email, and what you asked for was on public record. You could pick up, but as a courtesy, I have a copy of my notes that I used that evening. So if we want to hand
Of course.
that over.
Here you go,
But
Jess.
it was all put on public record. You can go on and do that research and legwork, but I did look for my old notes for you.
Thank you. I wish you would have given me the courtesy of a response, because I had asked for this specifically and you had promised to provide it. So thank you for fulfilling your promise tonight. Can you tell us who, through you, Madam Mayor, for Councilwoman Roberts, who published the study that concluded adding more than 2 electric vehicles to every street would, quote, blow their grid up? You said Mayor Krenzel was the source of the information, but I'd like to know who actually conducted and published the study so I can examine their methodology.
I used that as a reference when I did some of my legwork, because I only had Friday to Monday to do that. So that was my source.
So you don't know who published the study?
I'm using that as a reference, as an example. That was my source. I did not go further into the study because I felt that I had enough backup information from the EPA and that was the sources that you have there. And since then, I think I shared with Councilwoman Novak a tracking mechanism that someone also offered to me on tracking usage and emissions, and also the difference between carbon dioxide emissions, so, which I can't possibly understand all of it, but I do want to learn more about it. But I do know, I still believe we need the energy in this area.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, reviewing your thing you gave me right here, it doesn't say anything about this 2 electric vehicles blowing up the grid.
No, you wouldn't
And
get that in my
you verbally got that from Mayor Krenzel is what you're saying.
Yeah, that was verbal.
Okay, and you don't know who actually conducted or published the study?
No.
Okay, well, I think that would be important information. We went through 3 months of meetings with the Environmental Commission, and I've been coming here for
I
many.
thought that was ancillary extra information,
Okay.
so I didn't feel the need to pursue that further.
Okay, generally, I do try to get the original source of information. On that point, you said that energy demand is expected to increase as much as 90% in urban areas. What's the specific source for your statement?
I believe those sources all came from EPA. I didn't thoroughly source. I've looked those up, and you can feel free to look them up and use them as you need to. And I think I have the website that has the energy usage if you'd like that also. I didn't use that as a source.
Okay, I just don't see a source here. I see the statement, but I don't see the source. So it's hard for me to just take it at face value. I sourced all my information that I gave to the council, and I would appreciate the same if you're trying to refute what we're saying. I think that, we deserve, the truth.
As I said at the first meeting, I had a weekend to do some ancillary research so that there was some opposition view, and did as much due diligence as possible, came up with those. If you would like me to footnote on each web page of the EPA that those came from, I don't know if I'm going to have the time to do that, but if you refute them, it was that day and time, and it was sourced.
with all due respect, I think that.
Not being an energy major, I do believe I did my due diligence to make sure that I had the relevant information from relevant sources. And the top one obviously is the EPA, which is a screenshot from theirs. So that's a good position to start with. I don't believe I've gone anywhere else for it, but if I clicked around and went to other sources and didn't reference them.
I do understand the importance of what you're asking because as.
And it's just was so long, it was how many council meetings ago and my cache is missing. I mean, I used relevant sources. If you want me to go back and source each statement, I would be happy to because they are valid. And I'll just get you the sources. My notes just don't happen to have it. And in the future, I will bring all sourced footnoted materials for comments that I'm going to make.
I believe that in issues when it comes to this, when we have advocacy groups and we have organizations and we have something that has reached a fever pitch within many municipalities and even here, because we've had multiple residents that are concerned about this, we have to remember what we say as elected officials. When we turn around and we spout percentages, numbers, or what we consider to be fact, our residents are looking at us and they're expecting that our comments are factual and they want to know where those things are coming from. Because we are decision makers, we are policy makers, and it's difficult. We try to be as informed as possible. We have a very, very interested group and multiple organizations that are looking to us to help them. So I do understand the need and the importance of making sure that you have relevant facts, informations, and sources that are in fact reparable. It's what I teach my students. I'm sure it's what Councilwoman Moore teaches her students, sources, references. Yeah.
Is it credible, reliable, appropriate, and purposeful?
And I don't think we have to add anything else to that.
I typically have my laptop. This is the first time we have these laptops. So what I printed out was my notes.
And I do
I
appreciate,
will look on the EPA site to get you that list of references.
and I do appreciate the fact that you do take everything that is taken from this and then you fact check it as well. So, but I do believe from the standing of my clerks that 5 minutes must have been reached.
I still want to, and I do have something important to say.
Go ahead.
In terms of accuracy, I want to correct something I stated at your last meeting. I said
I
that there were
appreciate-
4 gas plants in Sayreville. One of them is actually petroleum plants. I should have said 4 fossil fuel plants, but I do think it's important to be.
Thank you for that
correct
specificity.
The record. And so we've got 6 fossil fuel plants already in Middlesex County. We don't need a 7th. And you're in a unique position of power here, being so close to the proposal where decision makers are going to look at what does Sayreville have to say about this. I hope that you'll all rise to the occasion and do deep research and take significant time to get all the facts, find out what this means for your residents. And I continue to offer to help with that. I would love the opportunity to make a more formal presentation with like a slide deck. I know in Perth Amboy, we got the green team support. I went to a council meeting and they said, sure, we'll put you on for 10 minutes at the beginning of the
Slide
next
deck
meeting.
might be above us right now, but listen, we just got these fancy dancy things in front of each person. But I will say this, and then I'll let you go because I know your time is ticking down. One of the other things I'll ask the council to consider is the fact that you did bring up the other plants that we have here. One of the things that I was concerned about, and Jay, potentially you might even have some insight on this, not necessarily now, but later, with the size of this particular plant that's being built within Woodbridge and the fact that right now it doesn't appear that Sayreville would be receiving any of the benefit of that particular site going online. But what would that mean potentially for our future and for the current plants that operate here? Is it a possibility where we could see the plant in Woodbridge being able to actually supply power here, supply whatever here, and then that be a negative to the plants that we currently have? And then it would be potentially a loss in tax ratables or something like that. If our power plants go off grid now because the Woodbridge plant now can sustain more than what they had originally thought it would. It was a concern for me. You don't know right now. It's something that is forward thinking. And that's one of the things I said, well, wait a minute. One of the things I don't want to do is hurt us from a revenue perspective either. And if this particular plant right now does not include Sayreville in their abilities to provide power, whatever they're doing, but what if the future of that expansion and that plant now ends up taking off something online here? Now we have a true revenue loss potentially as well. So those are all things that not just from an environmental perspective, but now I'm looking at a different facet of it from a financial perspective here within our town.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll follow up via email and hope we can have a meeting soon.
Thank you very much. You can ask away. That's, you're elected here for.
Just been curious, and I want to appreciate you for taking the time to come out of town to really pursue this, you know. My curiosity is, have you been relating with our environmental commission on this? And yeah, I'd like to hear.
Yeah, I have reached out to the secretary of the commission a couple times and asked if somebody might be able to come to the meeting, but we've kind of missed each other and hasn't worked out. I believe they don't have meetings scheduled for the summer months. So that's part of the issue, but I'll continue to reach out. I do see a couple members here in the audience, so.
Just again, you know, to get it to a point of policy, I think it's definitely, as some of us mentioned, right, you know, doing the research, it's necessary for sure, but also taking the time to rely on, you know, the different commissions that have been appointed, right? That's kind of, I guess, some of the essence why they're also there too. And to hear that they're not willing to pursue it further, you know, it makes me raise an eyebrow and want to know more. So
same here.
You know, if you're relating with them, I think that's something to definitely look into. And because I think it'll be great from a council standpoint if our own commissions are pushing this forward. But if they're not, and it's someone from the outside, you know, it allows us to be encouraged to look into it more. And so hopefully you don't think that we're just wasting time, but at the end of the day, if we're going to do it, I think it's still good to do it right. So not to send you on another errand or anything, but I'll be interested to see what your relationship is like with them and how we can get them to also show that sense of urgency as a body.
Yeah, I'll follow up. The last time I was there was a unanimous vote to recommend opposing the power plant. So I'll follow up and.
So something did change since then. From the unanimous vote to now,
I can only
telling our council that
what we're
they
hearing
don't
from
they don't
the
desire to
liaison.
push it forward.
Yeah, I can only.
No, maybe you weren't here in time, but I'm just saying overall, you know, it makes me wonder, right? How did they go from unanimous to, you know what, borough and mayor and council, we're good.
Yeah, and I'll note, yeah, they haven't been having meetings, so, you know, whatever discussions did happen, happened in private, so I wasn't privy to them, but I'll be sure to follow up and you can count on that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again.
Same on this side.
Mike got his hand up quick. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike Diadio, and I'm the chairman of the Sayreville Economic Redevelopment Agency. This week, I had an opportunity to speak to Joe Kupch in regards to Morgan's Bluff. I know that's been a topic.
That's
regarding
part.
the high rents, and I actually spoke to Denise before this meeting. The council voted to give Morgan's Bluff a pilot program, and it seems to me that we're not getting the paperwork that we should be getting to determine the amount of taxes they should be paying. Joe sent the letter, I believe it was 2020, and I don't think Denise has everything that she should have regarding the pilot program. And the reason I reached out to Joe was I wasn't sure who enforces the pilot program, who's in charge of seeing that all the paperwork is collected. We should be seeing every rent agreement, every lease, what their expenses are, and they're paying a percentage to the borough, or should be paying a percentage to the borough of what they're taking in.
Absolutely.
So
Go
if
ahead,
I
Mike.
could, Mike. So the email that you sent out, I know that I spoke to the rent leveling attorney regarding the requirements of a pilot and also the certifications that a rent leveling board is required to take and determine if in fact exemptions apply or they're not exempt. Joe does have the right to request what is known as a Chapter 91, which is a income and financial statement of a landlord tenant to determine if in fact the assessment is accurate. It also has the opportunity to look at the pilot program to see what pilot agreement to see what requirements they are. So I know that you sent that email to Joe, or he got a copy of that. So I know that he's forwarding it. He is following up on it. I also know we spoke about to the rent leveling board. The rent leveling board, Brian Printempo, is going to reach out to Joe also to see if he can assist him in the certification that Brian's looking to on behalf of the rent leveling board. So it's.
This is separate from rent.
Yeah,
This is-
I understand what you're
but-
saying. I want to know who's responsible for executing the pilot agreement and
No, it's
making,
not
su-
executing,
or not
it's
executing, but
enforcing.
enforcing. I didn't mean that.
Enforcing. So Joe Cups would be the proper person to
To-
determine and follow up with the pilot together with Denise to make
Right.
sure that the money is properly.
Right, and I agree with you. And Joe sent the letter and he requested documents almost 2 years ago, and he hasn't received them. So what's the next course of action? And
Well, the
for a
next course-
business not to give you the right documents,
Oh, no, the next course of action, quite honestly, would probably potentially be revoking the pilot agreement.
Mhm.
So if there's a breach in the pilot agreement, I haven't seen a breach, I haven't seen the pilot agreement. But if there are grounds or there are material breaches that this developer is not doing, right? Then the next step is to determine what's the agreement say with regarding to failure of a developer to abide by the pilot
now,
agreement.
is that something the borough attorney would do, or is that, I don't see the rent leveling board attorney. having
Rent
any
leveling board
jurisdiction.
attorney wouldn't do, that would just be for certification and rent leveling board ordinance.
All right, but enforcement of
So-
the pilot
So
program.
enforcement of a
is-
pilot, if Joe is to advise me that, Mike, I need you to come review the pilot agreement, I need you to determine if in fact they breached it. And then contained in that pilot agreement is probably a default provision. And what happens?
I would
right?
hope so.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, again, I know that there is a,
So let's do this real quick, because Mike brings up, this is a potentially 2-year delinquent in providing documents. And now we have residents that are feeling this in their wallets as they're increasing. I'm very uncomfortable about this. This seems to me like we may have potentially an issue here. So I'm going to request of you, Mike, we need a copy of the pilot agreement. I need you to review that. I want you to have conversations with both Joe Kupch as well as Denise.
Or not income, but the rents and everything that they have set, which is what I used to pass over the file. Okay.
but the most important thing would be the agreement.
Yeah, the agreement is most important because we're going to need to look at whether or not there is an issue with failure to produce documents and then potentially a
file, right.
termination of the
Potentially a
pilot.
Termination of the pilot, but that would be
Well, I'm
dependent.
not comfortable with the business telling you this is how much rent we're collecting. I want a little more in-depth.
Well, that's what we do also.
Well, I know, but Denise and I spoke about this and she said she got an income statement. And I'm saying, well, how do you know that's true? You don't know it's true. You need to go further and deeper and do a deeper audit on this.
Well, again, I think that will be guided by what the pilot agreement says in terms of what documents they are required to produce.
Yeah, well, Mike Baker should have a copy of it.
So,
Right.
and,
So, to be honest with you, what could happen is what I'll do is I'll reach out to Mike. If he has a pilot agreement, say, Mike, I don't think they're following the pilot agreement. We need-
hang on. On the dais, though, I need everybody, sorry, because you got to remember, this picks up everything now.
We need to determine if in fact what our recourse is, if they're not giving Denise what she wants or what Denise wants. I mean, because you're right, if in fact they've asked for it every year since 2020, haven't produced it, then there's consequences.
Yeah, the letter that Joe sent pretty much told them, this isn't what you're supposed to be giving us. And then it's been ignored.
Yeah, so I'll reach out to Joe tomorrow and then I'll reach out to Mike Baker and say, hey, listen, this is the problem that we're having, and then I'll talk about a recourse.
And I'm going to say this also because of what Mike has brought up as well. If we are supposed to be receiving contracts of each tenant agreement in order to determine whether or not those tax documents are in fact accurate, then we need to get those. We need to get those immediately because we need to be protecting our residents to the best level that we can. And as we know from listening to Brian, our rent level attorney, there are certain things that we just don't have the power to do. So it puts our residents at their own, they have to basically fight for themselves because we are limited to what we can do. But this is something that if we're supposed to have, we should have, and this will, I'm sure, halt some decisions possibly from the people that are renting these things out and let them know somebody's watching what you're doing. We are keeping you honest. You're not going to turn around and impose these things on us because you do have a pilot, which we did not have to grant you, which is a benefit to you at this point. And if you're not providing us with the documents in here, then that leaves. And hopefully that's written within that pilot agreement.
So,
Pretty sure.
yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, motion to adjourn public portion. I'm sorry, motion to close the public portion and adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Oh, do you want a roll call for that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Jess, can you survive another minute or do you need to take a second? You're good. We're gonna roll right on through. Everybody, please rise, salute to our flag as we move to our next meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, ladies and gentlemen, statement of publication again, Jessica.
Take notice that this agenda meeting meeting of the mayor and council being held this 18th day of July 2022 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Conti.
Here.
June 4.
Here.
Mar.
Here.
Novak.
Here.
Noha.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, anything under old business?
Just those-
Any questions? Those were all brought in for first reading. Let's go on now to communication and committee reports, administration and finance. Councilwoman Novak, you are on. I know this.
I move that the minutes and reports are received and filed as listed on the agenda under A1 through 3. So give a second.
Yeah. You.
Okay, authorization for the tax collector. Any objections? An application for a social event. Any objections? Okay. I would like to bring up something as far as we are currently working on developing Danielle's recommendation. We've passed our 20 days and we're starting to buy some of this equipment that we are in desperate need of. We have lost a couple more trucks.
We're gonna need to have quiet from in the back to close that door because our audio system picks up. Thank you.
Mayor, everybody has received today an email form and hard copy at the meeting, a letter from Sarah
Yes.
about landfill 3. What I'm looking for is, because we have so few meetings in the summer, I would like, Sarah has requested that we allow this contractor to perform his due diligence, but list these under 1, 2, 3, and 4, insurance certificate for Sarah and Sayreville. They provide a schedule of their activities to the borough. They do not do any work that would penetrate the landfill cap, and that they restore any disturbed areas and fill in any evacuations as test pits. I'd like that to have a vote. I'm making that in a motion form tonight and have a vote on it, and then we'll formalize it on the agenda in August because it's so far away.
I have no objection to that. So if that is a motion, I'll need a second.
Second.
Yeah, Mike will give it to
You know
you.
what it is? It's a, oh, let me read it.
Yeah.
It's a, it's just a letter dated July 12th, 2022, which we received from the executive director, just indicating that redeveloper wants to perform their due diligence on the project site, which could involve survey and environmental data collection. As such, they were asking that we authorize them by way of resolution, that the due diligence work be allowed, that subject to this due diligence work, that they will post insurance certificate with the Sayreville and Sarah as named insureds. They will provide a schedule of their activities to the borough. They do not do any work that would penetrate the landfill cap, and that they restore any disturbed areas and fill any excavation and test pits. That's the resolution.
Okay.
You're gonna file that before they.
You're gonna file it before work, correct?
Jay, did you have anything to add to that?
No, Mayor, that's accurate. That's what the proposal from Mr. Ambrosio requests to the council.
Okay, thank you very
very much, Shay. So with that, then you're requesting a vote on that at this time. So it's,
First, and you just need a second.
right. Thank you very much. Roll call, please, Jess, when you're ready.
Mrs. Novak.
Yes.
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 Mar.
Yes.
Noah.
Yes, please.
Robert.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else, Mary? There you go. Thank you very much. We're moving to planning and zoning at this time. It was Councilman Anoha for your report.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I'd like to move the following minutes for construction, fire prevention, and zoning and code enforcement from the months of June to be received and filed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
I'd also like to receive and file the notice of public hearing for the Old Bridge Planning Board and the Spotswood Planning Board in July to be received and filed.
Second.
And progress so far, but no additional details for now. Thank you all.
Public safety, Councilwoman Dukes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I move the following minutes, reports be received and filed. A 1 through 3.
Second.
Thank you. I move the following minutes / reports be received and filed. B 1 through 3.
That's the point. So I think that's. Any
Oh, sorry, approval.
Paperwork is in, Jess, right? Everything's good. All right. Anything else then, Councilman Dukes?
For committee reports progress, and thank you to all of our departments, and congratulations to our fire department on their new truck.
Excellent. Public Works, Councilman Foxy.
All right, thanks, Mayor. I'll move the following minutes and reports be received and filed. A number 1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All right, we got a request for block parties from another 3 groups. Residents at Ridge Avenue and Milton Road on July 30th from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m.
There's
Residents-
actually 4, Vince.
Oh, there's a 4th? I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's 4. That's okay.
It was emailed this afternoon, an updated agenda.
We just, lots of parties going on.
That's
I
great.
like it. Summertime.
All right, so I got 4 of them. So I didn't see the 4th.
That's okay.
The second
That
one's
one's
Florence
for
Drive
Dunlop Drive.
And Dunlop Drive, okay.
Yep.
So the 4th is Dunlop Drive and the 3rd is Pine Tree Drive from Buttonwood Drive to 56 Pine Tree on August 20th. Looked like all the paperwork was in order. Is that correct, Jess?
Yes.
Okay.
Any objection to those? Excellent.
No, and all right, and then just 2 things. I spoke to Phil Quigley, Parks Department. He was going to ensure the bathrooms would be open around town, fields, etc. So he was coordinating that for us. So hopefully if you're at the parks, you see the bathrooms are open when you need them. And then I spoke to the guys over at the Historical Society, Art and Frank, about the parking lot. And they did a once over and they did feel that it was okay. There's one spot that they would rope off because they thought it was a little dangerous. But aside from that, they were okay moving forward with the flea market in the parking lot there. So in that case, I was too. And that is it, progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vince. All right, let's move on now to water, sewer, and environmental. Councilman Roberts, please.
So still have to go to paper, sorry. I move the following minutes, departmental reports be filed. My water and sewer director's report for June 2022.
Second.
Thank you. And just something to add that I've been working on. I sent in the application earlier today. Women's suffrage is, women's right to vote was ratified on August 18th. And what I'd like to do in conjunction with, and bless you. And this is all because I went on a tour and found out some things about women's suffrage, how a lot of women gathered together in places like ice cream parlors and tea halls, because that's the only place we could go unchaperoned. So one of the things was an ice cream parlor, and Tuckerton did a very nice presentation. I thought it would be nice if we had an ice cream social. So I'm working with the Historic Society to start an ice cream social. We don't have the details yet. They're meeting on Saturday to determine if they want to participate in this. And
The senior center usually does an ice cream social, so maybe you, during the summer, so maybe you can bring them into this too.
we were talking about that. We thought it might be different audiences. So that's something they're going to talk about at the historic
Okay.
meeting. So yeah, but just something to, acknowledge the fact that women's right to vote and women's suffrage was experienced on August 18th. We may move the date to the Saturday after the 18th, if that makes more sense. So
You make it the 19th, we can celebrate my birthday too. That might work out pretty nicely for me.
Put a candle in the ice cream.
Put a candle in the ice cream for me. And could you imagine me not wanting to celebrate women's suffrage and the ability to vote? I mean, whew,
ice cream.
and ice cream.
Better day than that.
Everything.
So
I
do
like
have
it.
that. Hopefully, we can all agree to move forward with that and join us for ice cream.
No objection here.
Okay, I think that's all.
Don't forget to count.
All right, wonderful. Let's move on now to Recreation. Council President Mara, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the following minutes reports be received and filed. Recreation Department report for the month of June.
Is there a second? Thank you.
And B, applications for special events received from the
Wait,
following.
They pulled it.
Okay,
It's canceled.
okay,
So.
never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, committee reports. I only have three things tonight. First, the issue of voting in schools, the safety of voting in schools has come to my attention. I did reach out to Dr. Labby and Mr. Frankel and hoping that we could come to a compromise. Dr. Labby said that they already closed schools on election day and they only have a 6-day buffer left to build in any more days. So they are asking if we would consider moving the voting booths for primary and special day elections to different locations out of schools.
I would have to ask Jessica for that because she's responsible for all of
Where are you
those.
gonna put them? There's nowhere with the equipment that we need now to. move
So
them.
could it be condensed to fewer buildings with the amount of people that vote in those elections?
Probably not.
Does that have to go over to the county board? No, I'm saying like a request.
It's gonna be
like
up
that.
to, if me and the school do not come to an agreement, the county is gonna weigh in on it.
Right.
I have 3 polling locations in Morgan. Salover cannot move there. I cannot put anything else.
Mhm. So hopefully we can open those doors for discussion to figure something out.
We already have a problem with primary and November election. And now they want to have another election.
Well, November, they're closed. November, schools are closed.
Yeah, election day is closed.
It's in service for.
I mean, they want to have this special election.
Yeah, I mean, they're just creating another problem, special election day in October. They know there's a problem and they're making it worse. We could have had this on the ballot in November when the schools were closed.
And that's 13 districts in schools that we need to relocate.
13.
Okay. The next topic is our mural. I emailed, hopefully everyone checked their email and received the pictures, the gorgeous pictures of how gorgeous the mural, the Veterans mural came out in Kennedy Park. Thank you. It was 3 years in the making. We did approve one wall of $1,500, but she did 2 walls. So would anyone be opposed to approving the second wall payment? She put in 114 hours. And getting paid for only one wall is $13 an hour, which she could get paid more at McDonald's. So is anyone opposed to paying her the additional 1,500?
Hearing none.
Thank you.
Moving on. Very good job. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
Gorgeous. And finally, my thoughts on the pride flag. Mr. Sposato, thank you for coming out tonight. Whether it feels like it or not, we made progress. We had a conversation about a difficult topic that has never been had before up here. And it is now memorialized. You never have to ask for it again in the month of June. I'm sorry if the symbolism of the flag was diminished tonight in any way. I don't think it can be compared to other flags between Mr. Councilman mentioned the hate crimes, being banned from the military, not eligible for death benefits of your spouse, or being able to visit them in a hospital. Those reasons cannot be compared to any other flag. So Mr. DuPont, the only prerequisite I have when you're researching policies is where else is it flown in thousands of other towns? One thing that I like about Sayreville is how conservative we are, and we are never, hardly ever the first to do anything. We are not the first, second, third, fifth, 200th, 3,000th town to fly this flag. But you would not know that from the conversation here tonight. So I feel we did make great progress tonight.
Simple. For the third year, I am proud to be the mayor of a town that continues to fly the pride flag. Not for me, but for every single person that identifies under those colors. To my students, to the young people, to the older people, to grandparents that never knew it was okay to come out. The stories and what I see every single day in a building, in a classroom. The thank you, I've never gotten more thank yous for doing something so simple over the course of the last 3 years than hanging that flag. I'm proud to wear this shirt. Is not just for today. I have 5 or 6 of them because I want my students to know, and I want my children to know, and I want the people in this town to know that I don't want us to not see each other's differences. I think that's wrong. I think what we need to do in this society is acknowledge our differences, celebrate our differences, talk about our differences and what makes us unique. Differences make us unique. But then to find the common ground and to actually have conversations and understand one another and what makes those differences so beautiful. So I don't prescribe to this idea that we're all this, we're all that. No, I think it minimizes what truly makes us stand out. We're not all the same. And that's what makes this world beautiful. That's what makes Sayreville beautiful. That is what we should be striving for. Celebrating our differences, understanding one another, talking to one another, and not being threatened by what makes us different. But it's what makes us strong. The differences makes us stronger. So with that, progress on another kind of long day, but conversations that needed to happen. Business Administrator.
Yes, I am going to be substituting for Mr. Frankel and hoping that to fill his big shoes. The first is a request received from Legacy Riding Stables to exercise their option to renew their concession contract with the borough for an additional 2-year term with the same concession fee.
If there's any objection to anything Mr. DuPont presents, please feel
Just let
free
me
to
know.
speak. Just keep on going unless someone stops you.
Recommendation received from the Open Space Committee to offer the property located at Block 419, lots 4-8.01, Division Street for sale. Recommendation received from the Open Space Committee to offer the property located at Block 511, lot 761.01 and 762 Luke Street for sale.
Excuse me, I just have a question. Do we have to now authorize them to send that to an agency to get an appraisal?
We do need an appraisal on the property to proper.
Tonight is what I'm asking.
Well,
That falls under.
So a request from Donna Avila, current holder of a P1 peddler mobile permit, who is looking to get a P2 site-specific permit, which the borough no longer issues to new applicants for Ken Buchanan Riverfront Park.
I researched this quite a bit. We have to change the ordinance, which we wouldn't even be able to do that.
Right, so that request
Oh,
is moot. Right.
Yeah.
So we will advise her that that request is denied at this time. Planning and zoning authorization to amend 12-3.15 of the revised general ordinances to add enforcement regulation against the rise in residential Airbnb type rentals and pool backyard rentals. This was recommended by Kirk Mick's office. Public safety authorization to appoint 4 police officers in the police department effective August 1st, 2022. Number 2, authorization to appoint Curtis Ennett to per diem dispatcher trainee in the police department effective July 19th, 2022. Request received from the Sayreville Fire Department to increase the length of service awards program LoSAP to the maximum amount approved by LoSAP law.
I researched this also. We would be more than double what we're getting right now. And we said that we would address this in next year's budget. We just, we don't have a lot of, we know how hard we tried to get this down to 1.5 cents. We don't have a lot of money there. So I agree that we discuss it in next year's budget. Every department and every.
Okay.
Everybody agrees.
Request.
You need to ask the council on that. So the council have any objection to Mary's request to push this until next year? Discussion for at next budget session. So did everybody take a look at that? It's number 3 under Dan's agenda, which is now Mike's agenda. Number 3, any objections? Right, to moving it to the budget discussions for next year. Okay, doesn't seem like there's any.
Authorization for the Sayreville Municipal Alliance to accept the DMHAS grant funding for a 1-year grant term, July 1st, 2022 to March 14, 2023, and in the amount of $5,000. Authorization to renew the new CAD system software maintenance contract with Q's Inforth Development through a state contract, an amount not to exceed $29,793. Authorization to award non-fair and open contract to Traffic Safety LLC for the purchase of 2 light towers in the amount not to exceed $23,800. Authorization to award a contract to Mall Chevrolet for the purchase of 1 2023 Chevy Tahoe through ESCN NJ contract in amount not to exceed $43,978. Authorization to award a contract turnout gear to Skylands Area Fire Equipment through NJ State Contract in the amount not to exceed $54,613.44. Public Works authorization to award non-fair and open contract to Papco Industries for the purchase of leaf bags and an amount not to exceed $21,884.80.
Mike, for that, have we ever considered what some other towns do with the leaves just being left on the street and then the machine decide to pick it up? Is that cost effective? Or that costs more money?
I know that that's just for my, again, edification in Red Bank, not that it's as hip as Sayreville, but I found that by the way them are doing that, a lot of times leaves clog our sewer system and sewer system. Yeah, so.
We did have a machine like that.
And the size of this,
We did.
the size of this municipality, I'm not quite sure if that would be the,
Once the leaves get wet, those things that you're taking.
I think the difference in the size is important. You guys are a lot bigger than Red Bank, so that probably is a huge difference.
This machine is much better.
Right. Authorization to award contract for heavy trucks to Hunter Jersey Peterbilt through Sourcewell contract, an amount not to exceed $1,137,961.51. And there is nothing for recreation, nothing for water and sewer, and I'm taking my shoes off and hat off as business administrator.
Okay, you did a fabulous job. Like, don't tell Dan. Good work. CFO's report, Denise.
Authorization to amend the 2022 local municipal budget for the following: 2023 municipal alliance grant in the amount of $16,183 with a cash match of $4,045.75. Thank you.
We like that. That's grants. Good job. Borough engineer now. You got to follow that up.
Sorry, Mayor. Not this time.
Oh,
A few items, Old Bridge area road improvements. At the last council meeting, you had the residents from Old Bridge come and raise concerns about the condition of the roadways. We provided you with the report with a little bit of background as to the paving history. We also inspected all the roads. Cost for milling and paving all the roads in that area is approximately $400,000. That's not in your current budget. The one road that seemed to be the most concerned was William Street. That's the road that was started and never received the top coat of pavement. It's approximately $75,000 to put the final coat of pavement on that roadway.
I think that's an important thing that we should consider. Yeah. Fine, yeah, that deserves the top coat. The other remaining, that's not inclusive of the 400,000. That's separate from the 400,000.
That's included with the 400.
Included. So that's something that needs to be addressed in our next budget.
But what if the council wants to proceed with just William Street, we've got some ongoing paving contracts that may have some extra money before they're closed out. So we may be able to do it as a change order to those contracts to reduce the amount. So
Yeah,
if you want to go in that direction, we can pursue that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll look to see if we can do it under as an existing contract as a change order.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that, I did receive another email. Of course, roads are always on the email. Whenever I get them, it just says roads. It just comes up. It's like a separate email now, a separate folder. So I did have a request to have our road department take a look at the remaining portions of, oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind. Which street? Glen Court. The lower set. So if you remember, we did some fixes on.
You awarded a contract. I think the complaint came from residents on the little cul-de-sac.
Yes, on the cul-de-sac,
That's
exactly.
included in the contract. And it's Deffert Court and the Glen Court. That's in part of the project you awarded. I think we're just waiting for contracts to be signed and then that can go to construction.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. Thank you. I just can't remember them all. Sometimes.
I think that was,
I
I caught that letter.
Yeah, did you also? Yeah. Yes, you were CC'd on that as well. All right.
We had a conversation saying it was horrendous when they street sweep. We took up the street.
Yes.
And nobody complains. Well,
Yes, I will say this. I mean, I get road complaints constantly and I'm on the roads, as soon as they send them, I usually go out and drive them and I look and see. I have to say, and this is now, I know a good portion of Laurel Park was in fact covered with the road improvement project that we had through my friends at, PSE&G. However, we do need to, and if you haven't had the opportunity as council people to drive up Kendall Drive, it is horrible. It's actually to the point of dangerous now. And quite a few of those roads are really, really deplorable. But Kendall is one of our longest, obviously. It runs almost it's the entire length from Laurel Park all along the side. But when you first come off of Cheesequake Road, making that left, that intersection there is actually really, it's becoming dangerous, as well as trying to drive on there. I've gotten quite a number of complaints now from people that live on Kendall itself. You cannot ride a bike, it's impossible. So it's something we definitely need to take a look at.
The intersection of Kendall and Ash was just done as part of a partial road project.
I did see that, yes.
Taken care of. Right.
Yeah, well, this is the longer part you'll see at the very beginning, the entranceway there. I made the mistake of actually walking several of the streets and dear Lord, it was not a pretty situation. So I'll just put that on the record. What else do you have, Jay?
The second item is the Duhernal Dam inspection. Every 10 years, the DEP requires the Duhernal Dam to be inspected. That means you have to hire an outside firm with divers to go in and actually look at the condition of the dam below the water level. So we need authorization to proceed with that. There is money in the finance department. We spoke with Danielle and she indicates the money's available. So we just need a resolution to proceed with that.
Okay, wonderful. We'll have that prepared for next meeting.
The next two items, Ernston Road and the Kennedy Park basketball courts, both of those projects are complete. We're looking to close those out and they're going to have reduction change orders going along with them.
You did all right then. It made me happy.
Thank you.
Borough Attorney, anything else?
No, I have nothing to report. I was going to give a presentation on the constitutional law.
You want me to add that for
But
next?
I didn't want to do that this evening.
No, we'll add that for next time then. Thanks.
I have a comment, I'm sorry.
Christian?
No, I should have mentioned this in my committee reports, I'm sorry. Can I just do
Yeah,
that?
go ahead. Go ahead. That's okay.
Our upcoming, for the planning board, our upcoming, sorry. So for our upcoming planning board, I wanted to know, can I make a request for our planner to be present in the planning board of August 18th for the public hearing on the redevelopment, to see if we can, look into some of the comments that Councilwoman Junfor made on her vote and see if we can get any potential changes.
So, go ahead.
Mayor,
Jim.
let me assist. I think the councilwoman raised some concerns about some of the conditions in the redevelopment plan concerning the parking for the first aid squad.
Right.
So the councilman was asking if that could be discussed further, and I indicated you may want to have the planner that prepared the report appear at your public hearing in August to answer any questions that they may have and explain why the conditions are in there the way they are.
Yeah, I actually, I don't have an issue with that. I'd actually like the planners to come. I know that that is something that is a very, very hot button issue for our Morgan First Aid, because they're concerned about the access in and out. And considering that this is our emergency services, I would like to turn around. While I saw it within the report, a little bit more insight or a little bit more conversation that we can have would, I think, be beneficial and would ease not only my mind, but obviously our first responders that have to operate out of that building.
I think the way the report is written, the parking is currently on Club Pure's property. It's not on the first aid squad.
But it's not only just the parking, they have an emergency exit also. So God forbid if anything but it's a conversation of back and forth. So I'm glad that somebody's coming in, because I was told that something was gifted to the town by DuPont and it's just a back and forth. That's why I voted no. I didn't get real clarity on it, and I wasn't gonna vote no for a team that I actually represent. I'm not gonna do that. I'm
I think a
sorry.
planner would be beneficial.
Talks about the site being gated, and there's concern, I think, from the first.
Yes, because I spoke with them
through the gate to get to the
extensively about this.
Absolutely.
They are actually, it's right here on page 8.
Yeah.
So I definitely
Thank you,
think,
Councilwoman Novak.
I definitely think
Because-
that right now, rather than us trying to have to read these maps and see, I think having the planner here, luckily we have the technology that we do, so we'll be able to hopefully utilize that, make things larger. We'll have our screens. Definitely for the next meeting, I think that would make sense. Let's have our planner here.
The next.
No, the next
Yes.
council meeting, because the planning meeting, you guys know what's going on. You've seen this. We need to be enlightened. So
Yes.
absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for reminding us of that, Christian. All right, open to the public. Seriously, anybody? Anybody online? I think we've lost everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, motion to close the public portion and adjourn the meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic evening. Thank you to all those that participated this. Oh, go ahead. Make